it was really two resources. It was, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff there. Probably anything anybody could need if they keep the packet after they get on board.
They still couldn't find it. I still couldn't find it. Even though it's
I don't remember clicking. There we go. Genie.
On this Heritage calculator. The invitation to the suit or the agenda.
Are you not working?
Yeah, but I can show you where.
Hopefully in the future I will get the email. I don't know why I didn't get on. Goodness. Let's see.
I got mine off account. Didn't go for an email.
I wonder if it didn't get sent out with Sydney mom having passed.
Lane, do you want to sharing with me? And I want to rename my pictureless video, but I can't seem to do it. Oh.
There we go. Jeannie, you ought to be functional now.
Okay, thank you. Yep, I am.
Itchy.
So, not able to do the facilitator.
So it's itchy.
So worst case scenario is you can vote somebody in tonight, or the public can do it at the meeting itself. Yeah, I mean, if I'm stuck doing it, I'll do it.
I'll see if they can bring somebody.
Yeah,
Maybe
and
bring
do it from
somebody
the
from the
floor.
town office and just do it from the floor.
And I'll be prepared otherwise. So the boiler update, I would ask to move that up so it's at the same time as the water bill. So towards the beginning, since those folks are here. And then, there was just.
Right here, I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other piece, and this is more votes around tonight. So that comes back.
Still up for the page. All right. They do. They're. You know, they're.
You need a
Huge change. I mean, today was so quiet there. I was like, I can't even.
She can see it. Hey, Jeannie.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing well. Just wanted to say hi. I know. Yes.
It's just so dry. It's nice.
Oh,
Yeah, that's gonna happen. Feeling, yeah.
Stayed. That we for excellence.
Going super chat. And I mean, I didn't do this. I just brought it this day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nope.
Hey, Mandy. Hi. It is nice to see you. Good color here. It's like a lot of things. Promise I'm not like Shannon Ford over here. I saw it. Okay.
Cold has been nice.
Okay, how did that?
I didn't think it would extend, yeah. Yeah.
It's right. Right.
I think it's for next year.
Nice picture. Yeah.
How
Juicy.
are you?
I'm so tired.
Oh, yeah. Mail, you thinking about it.
Went in at 3:30, or well, I went in at 4:30, but I got there at 4:30. And then the regular clerk, like one thing, it stayed until 1:30. And I'm like, I told Adrian, I was like, I'm on with it. I'm out at 8. Like, I'm done. I need to go to bed. Yeah, he's not. No. See. No. Did Jess tell you I finally got to
No, we.
Oh, you know what?
You know.
I wish. You just stop talking.
And so in the.
Stop talking. Yeah.
What's that noise right now?
Hey, do you want us to do over my presentation together?
So funny.
Feels like the boiler's working today.
No, it's
Believe me, I can mess it up just as bad as I'm. Just as like. Large enough. I just made myself. Yeah, no.
Listen, I almost wore a t-shirt.
Didn't even realize that's there. I appreciate you doing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Easy on the wall.
I didn't send out the folder.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do a lot of energy. Like school, that's how I get something. I wasn't big here. But out of like, oh, what's this? Yeah, well, that's where I found it. I got an email that I saw it.
Yeah, no, he's getting good. He puts, it says information and that's the whole folder.
And then I had to go through.
Did you finish here? Did you see it? Listen.
It's gotta be a campus. Oh, no, he was up there, you know, if we
Here. She was actually really good. She was only 21. Okay, so the shop was originally in the White River. It's in Barry. It's called Barry. You are
Three brothers over.
And it, but she's 25 and pretty.
Let's ask.
I'm the island. They thought she was like 2 sessions could be okay, right? I'm like, it's not.
Okay, all right, so we have everyone except for Lisa and Sandra. As you see, we are without Amber, so moving forward in minutes, we're gonna be a little different. We've got, everything's gonna be kind of captured through recording. And it sounds like we were exceptionally spoiled with Amber, taking like sectional notes. But what needs to be captured is, and tell me if I'm wrong, it needs to be the, quorum, motions, who made them.
First, second, the vote. If the vote's unanimous, if it's not, then, you know, you gotta say who voted for, who against. And then, you know, the adjournment time of the meeting. And then specific at the beginning of the board members, who's present, who is not.
Okay, so I'll read through so it's captured online. But yeah, so just make sure that we're speaking clearly, because basically our minutes are now going to be our recordings. All right, so again, Adrian Williams, Rick Alexander, Katie Murphy, Jeff Hans, Lois Perla, Scott Kendall, Casey Leahy, Jared Yusi, been practicing, Kate Lamphere, Donovan Nichols, and Lisa Sanders is not here. Okay, may I have a motion to approve the agenda? Oh, actually, I'm sorry, I have two additions, I'm sorry. I would like to move the update on the regarding the boiler up under old business, because we'll also be talking about the PCB remediation, so just getting kind of all of our environmental stuff done at once. And then like to add under new business, discussion either electing a replacement moderator or discussion in regards to the moderator, how we will manage that, as we don't have somebody. We've multiple people have been looking for one, and everyone's either not available or pretty much not available. So there's a few options we can discuss. So I'd like to just put that under new business. Is there any other additions to the agenda? Okay, so with those,
We accept the agenda.
all right, so Scott, who was the second? You?
Sure.
It was.
It was one of us.
All right, so Scott is moved. Katie has seconded. All in favor? All opposed? All right, the agenda is approved. Noted approval of the minutes from the January 15th meeting, 2006. 2026.
We accept
Back a decade, please.
Don't move.
Okay, so Scott, Katie, all in favor? Opposed? Minutes have been approved. That brings us to our first public comment. Is there anyone online?
Second.
I don't see anything on.
Scroll through.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see hands.
Okay, so we'll move through that. So that brings us to old business. So our first item is an update on the PCB remediation.
Hi, everybody. It's nice to see you again. I'm Greg Sterrett from John Turner Consulting. I'm the environmental consultant for Huntsburg.
He's waiting for me to pull up the
There's
presentation.
all few slides, but you'll still be able to see.
She should be able to. Do you have two cameras this time? Perfect.
Almost there. Hold on.
I'd like to thank so much for
Oh, not
being my
a
meeting
problem.
guy. And just while that's getting started, we also, as last time, have Patricia Capolino and Cassandra Blanco from the Department of Environmental Conservation here. I'll be giving a summary, more of an update of where we are with respect to PCB remediation at this school. But then they're on hand to answer any questions that I can't answer because I don't know the answer or I'm not authorized to answer it. They are here. So can you just go to the next one? So the last time I was here, and they were here, was October 30th, when we presented our evaluation of corrective action alternatives, where we looked at 5 main scope items to figure out what the best approach to each of those was going to be. And we did that. And our objective tonight is to give you an update on the current status of corrective action planning and funding to get any input and reader you can get, and answer any questions you might have. Next slide. So this is the funding update. The Vermont Department of Environmental Conservation has informed Two Rivers that $4 to $5 million will be made available to pay for PCB remediation at the school, with work to begin this summer, hopefully. Our efforts are going to focus on the removal of the very high PCB window caulks that are also in exterior doors, louvers, basically any exterior opening to the building. PCB contaminated flooring mastics, and wall paint. Importantly, C funding cannot cover the purchase and installation of new windows and HVAC equipment, including unit events. Next slide. So, in consultation with Wayne, with Todd here at the school, with DEC, this is the proposed initial corrective action plan that we would like to put forward. And it includes removal of all of those window, door, and louver caulks that I mentioned throughout the entire school. And this is working within the budget confines of this $4 to $5 million that will be available from DEC. Removal of there's high PCB expansion joint caulk that's only in the gym and cafeteria, but we get rid of that. We would remove the high PCB flooring mastics from rooms just on the third floor where we found particularly high levels in that. So some had very low levels, some had higher levels. We're basically going to target any primary, classroom or office or space where the level, any result above 50 parts per million came back. And then we want to encapsulate the walls and door frame paint throughout the third floor, primary occupied spaces, classrooms, offices, this library. That would exclude just bathrooms, hallways, stairways. Budget permitting, we could include those.
I'll just ask, how is it encapsulated? Is it just painted over? Like,
It's painted over with a very special paint.
Okay.
It's a two-part epoxy application that it just prohibits any PCBs from emitting, into the air.
Okay.
Just trap them in there.
What's the longevity of that paint?
So it depends. I mean, we kind of in our budgeting, which we're not addressing here and not in the budgeting that we're looking at for this initial corrective action plan, we assume that there might need to be reapplication within 10 years. So for a painted wall that has a PCB concentration in it of, it depends on a lot of conditions.
Sure.
And the underlying PCB concentration. So it's hard to say. Maybe never.
Sure.
Maybe 10 years. Very unlikely that it would be sooner than that. And we have ways of testing that. And long-term monitoring will be part of this plan. We'll be keeping an eye on the indoor air PCB levels, as well as checking once we've applied this epoxy encapsulant to make sure that there is no PCB breakthrough and that we've done it correctly. And these are just some important points about this is, so this would be an initial corrective action plan. There would be subsequent ones. If you can go back, wait, that's okay. So this initial one, we would be targeting the worst materials, and that's those window caulks that are everywhere, and that would be school-wide. And then we would also be focusing on getting levels down as low as we can on the third floor, where there's the possibility of moving younger children in if fifth and sixth graders are brought into the middle school. So what we're proposing now would not address the full extent of PCB contamination at the school. It would be the worst materials and the greatest areas of concern. And additional items such as flooring mask removal in first and second floor spaces, and encapsulating painted walls on the first and second floor. And there's the issue of soils, PCB contaminated soils outside. Those would be left to subsequent work plans. And then I'd already mentioned the long-term monitoring component. So if you just go back, so I just wanted to give just a quick glance at this was all presented last time we were here, but our ECA, our evaluation of corrective action alternatives, we looked at 5 main scope items. So it's the window caulks, the expansion joint caulk, which is just present inside the building in the gym, the cafeteria, flooring mastics, where there are high concentrations in various rooms throughout the school. PCB impacted wall, door frame, and floor paint, and then the soils outside. Next slide. With respect to the first scope item, which we do just consider, the biggest one, just because of the super high concentrations of PCBs and the ubiquity of the material throughout the school, we had evaluated 3 alternatives, which we call 1A, 1B, 1C. Alternative 1A involves leaving windows and the built-in univents throughout the school in place and removing the caulk around it, and then recaulking and encapsulating the substrates, the surfaces, to which the caulk had previously been applied. In the second alternative, 1B, that was the idea of actually demolishing all of the windows, removing the windows in order to get rid of all of the caulk and then to have better access to the substrate to grind those surfaces down and further reduce residual PCB levels in those surfaces before we encapsulate. And that was determined, if you go to the next slide, in our ECA, that was determined to be the preferred alternative. We had run, a comparative analysis according to a number of features, a number of criteria, and determined that this was the best way. Yes.
But I'm correct to say, when you discussed this last time, that removing them to do that, remediation would destroy the windows and ventilation systems.
Excellent.
And the 4 to 5 million does not cover replacement for that.
So after we had done this, I mean, I've gotten good information from good people about the risks of trying to attempt this with the windows in place. Subsequently, I had further conversations with those same window experts and the project manager for the GMUSD for another large school where this was done, where the windows were also installed around 1970, and they were able to do this successfully without large-scale damage to the windows. Wow. So this was revelatory. And if you go to the next slide, Lane, we did a second analysis, a comparative analysis of the options. And another thing, I found some additional evidence from EPA that indicated that the 1A, which is, the one where the windows are left in place, that would, not that would be eligible for EPA approval. They would not, kind of not approve that because it would leave some amount of PCBs in place. Because of where those PCBs are, it would not be disqualifying. So it bumped up in that respect. And this is the, sort of where we assign numbers into a quantitative analysis. And then with respect to feasibility, scheduling, and some other factors, it really increased to where it's really just, in total 1 point below our preferred alternative of 1B. Now, we still think 1B is the best way to, if we had no other considerations and we're just thinking the best way to do it, we still, my recommendation, my company's recommendation is still 1B. I have much less reason to think that 1A is a, significantly inferior option at this time. And it would be covered entirely by funds being made available by DEC.
Can you repeat that sentence? You don't believe 1A is that inferior?
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
As we previously thought.
Great.
And it had to do with reasons of administrative feasibility, and that was mostly on the grounds of whether EPA would agree with it as being a good approach. We now think that they would agree that it is. And it really excels with respect to the ease of implementability. You can just go ahead and do it. And then, as far as price goes, it's, just it's always been the winner in that respect. So, if you go to the next slide, Lane. So but there are options. So we've been discussing this with the school, with Wayne, with Todd, with DEC, and we want to find out if there is, any appetite in this group to pursue additional funding to do window replacements. If this work, remediation work were to take place in the context of, let's just say, planned window and HVAC upgrades, where the windows were going to be removed, units replaced, or replaced with a different heating out approach, it would be, and there would be cost savings. It would enable us to implement what we do feel is the most aggressive and best approach to the cost abatement. But it is just very, very expensive. So the question is, do we proceed with alternative 1A, which is fully covered by DEC funding and can be implemented, probably completed this summer, along with the other scope items that I mentioned? Or is there a desire in this group to basically find additional funds to coordinate our remediation efforts with window replacements? It could be school-wide. We've got numbers for that. That would be 7 to 8 million, or it could be just on the third floor. In other words, using a hybrid approach where we use option 1A for the rest of the school, but to really do our best to get the exposure levels as low as possible on the third floor where, they're hoping to admit younger children. We could do it with, a lower number. 2.5 to 3 million is the quote that we've received from EEI, is here for a different reason tonight. To do that, we would not be able to proceed with that part of the work plan this coming summer, but we could, if we did the hybrid approach, we could implement the other parts of the work plan. In other words, using approach 1A on the second and first floor everywhere else in the school, and then getting the windows ordered, et cetera, et cetera. And again, we don't even have to find the money to do that now. We just have to decide whether that's something we want to pursue, in which case we would either pause for the third floor, do all the other scope items that we've discussed for the rest of the building, see if there are funds available either through a bond or through the USDA program or some other program. I don't know, but that's an option. In which case, as I just said, implementation could begin this summer and be completed probably the subsequent summer by doing the window upgrades and abatement of the third floor then. Yeah.
So one of the key things in terms of the board, Craig, you and Cassandra can point me in a different direction. If need be, is that I think it's important for the board to understand the options that are up there. Because I think you really need to point these folks in a strong direction tonight. Because one of the concerns is the money is there and it's available now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if some other priority comes up, who knows what the legislature.
Well, I had a question. So how much has been allotted to us? 3 to 5?
4 to 5.
4 to 5. And so 1A was 1 point something, right?
1.8. There's about 1.4.
1.4.
Our existing quotes, we do have to update our quotes. Those are all estimated numbers, but yeah, in the ballpark.
In that ballpark. So the additional 2.5 to 3, would that still be under that funding? Like, would that fund it all?
No, so EC funds can't be used to replace windows or commuter benches. It would have to be, that money would have to come from a separate source.
The piece that I'll throw out, and I'm not pushing in one direction or the other, but you're going to have the boiler discussion, with Eric in a little bit. The thing that failed was a univent.
Mm-hmm.
That's what poured all the fluid from the heating system onto the floor that day. And so, if that stuff is old,
So my question, when I walked to school recently, we have these long glass corridors, right? And it looks like most of those windows have failed. And we have a lot of windows in this building. When we looked at this plan, did we look at at all, and I spoke with Todd about it briefly when I was here, about eliminating some windows,
Oh.
right? Because we have a lot. And for me, in speaking with Todd, he mentioned that like in those glass corridors, there's another product that's basically it's transparent and lets light in, but it's much cheaper than a window.
Mhm.
And I just didn't know if that was mentioned or looked at. Like,
We have not looked into sort of variations on
Yeah.
this. We just looked into the cost of replacement of existing windows, doors, louvers, and unit vents. Not really the existing ones. I mean, just one thing to keep in mind is that these old unit vents, was that in 203, by the way, where that failed?
okay.
Well, you know, uh, we detected it. Uh, is with the window replacements will be great. They're needed everywhere,
Sure.
period. Having brand new univents, running at top power in those spaces is going to do wonders for the indoor air concentrations of PCB. And that's the main exposure around here. This is a high school. Kids aren't eating the stuff really. There's limited, especially with the encapsulation that we're proposing can be very limited direct contact exposure. So it really is just the airborne PCBs that we're concerned about. And the two ways to approach it, one is get rid of all the things that are emitting PCBs. And that's hard to get all of them. And the other way is to suck them out of the air. And just not even more powerful, but just current equipment would do a much better job of doing that. We can tell when a unit that isn't working in a room just by the indoor air levels that we measure. So
How many unit vents do you need?
well, if we were, again, school-wide, I have that information. I can't remember. I think it's 45 school-wide. So up here, I think on the third floor, if you wanted to do a hybrid approach. Something I should mention, it would be some fraction of that, which is probably.
But the estimate's based on what we have now and
Now.
what we would need to bring.
Yeah.
Is there any estimated cost savings on increased efficiency of our heating system? We upgraded the unit vents and windows.
I'll get to that.
Perfect.
So all of this, even before the PCBs were discovered in this school, I know that there was, this was being considered, replacing the windows, updating the entire heating system, the boilers, et cetera. And that bond failed. In a perfect world, just whatever we have to do to get rid of the PCBs, that's taking place in the context of removing the windows and the stuff that's blocking our access to the PCBs and the surfaces that they're adhered to. That's just the ideal way to do it. And that's why 1B was our preferred alternative and remains it. However, I think we will still be able to get, pretty good results if we did option 1A. Yes.
Okay.
I see scope item 1. Yeah, are there item 2, 3, 4?
Yes.
Like if we were to pick 1A.
Yep.
And then say, and we want to do this from item 2 and item 3 to maximize the $4 to $5 million.
Right.
Would that also be a recommendation?
It is, and that's what, if you went back to a couple of slides, that's what our plan
Yeah, I need to see that layout.
really, if you go back.
But if we did 1B, that would use all our money plus
Back.
we wouldn't be able to do any of the other.
And forward, yeah. Yep, and one forward.
This is all great.
Quarterback.
That's it.
There we go, okay. So,
Okay.
yeah, so this plan is how to spend $45 million the best way. This is what we're recommending, which is to get rid of the caulks throughout the school and then the expansion joints that are in, because the younger kids also are going to be in the gym and cafeteria, but it's just super high. And that's not a big cost item. And then to focus on these third floor items. If there's, we're going to get updated numbers. If there's money to do more, then we're gonna make recommendations, additional recommendations. But we know there's almost certainly enough.
So just for fun, are they putting the same tiles back down when they replace?
No, our estimates include the cost of reflooring. But we're gonna have to install it ourselves, so that means everyone in the room is gonna, no, it's just,
At knee pads.
yes, no, that includes the, everything, any flooring is removed, replaced, but we, by final.
Okay, I have two questions and maybe a rhetorical one. If we did that sort of a la carte, one that you guys are recommending, but then we were able to access additional funds, could we then go into that hybrid picture?
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, that might be the wisest, is like maximize what we're being
Absolutely.
allocated, and then if more funds become available. This one's a little bit rhetorical, but I mean, I understand we have to do these things, but has the state talked about address the fact that kids are going home to homes for PCBs? Like I think about this constantly, like all of our old homes are full of PCBs. So I feel like sometimes this is, I'm just not entirely sure our benefit, not that I don't want to do it, but like I just, I mean,
All the
you go
more
home and
reason for
people
them
have
not to be.
tiles in my home.
They-
Very good, so.
They have
I just,
an act that they're looking at right now about stopping PCB testing, requiring the state to complete remediation in the buildings that have already been found out. The problem is that when I went up and talked with them on the Hill, as part of the, where we give them feedback and whatnot, they don't have an appropriation line. So in other words, they can say that, yeah, the state has to continue and fully remediate the schools that have been found out. But if they're not required to appropriate funding to actually do the remediation, then it's probably never going to get done.
Mm-hmm.
So what they did is they have another little caveat in the law that says, well, if the state is not going to provide that funding, so instead of requiring them to fund it, if they're not going to provide that funding, then, schools don't have to follow the state guidelines in terms of PCBs. And it's like, well, you can't do that because once you find the hazard and you've defined it, you've got to take care of it. And so then we were putting pressure on them in that act to say, well, yeah, if you want to do that, that's fine, but you need to also put a line in there that says the state is liable for all actions that come about because of you not funding it, us not following your original.
well, I guess that's kind of that like rhetorical part. Like we're doing all of this, and I mean, I don't know any of the actual data in regards to like actual health issues that have been demonstrated. But as things evolve, if things start to show up, like how are we're doing this, it's going to relieve us from liability. But again, I mean, if something happens, it could be because they were in a home built in 1950 and their house is just
Well,
I'm feeling like we're putting so much into this, and I'm not entirely sure what
the positive is that if they stop testing, as weird as it sounds, this school has been identified. We know it's there and we're taking care of it. Right. Even right now, if people are keeping the filters on like they should, it's taken care of. We're below even the state's kind of ridiculous thresholds that they set, which is different than what the EPA says. There are schools out there, especially as you're starting to talk about, consolidation and whatnot, that haven't been tested and aren't going to be tested, so you don't know. So it's just kind of an interesting thing. Yeah, we've got them, but we're taking care of them. But there's a lot of schools out there that probably have them and we'll never know.
Does that put us in a better position or a worse position? I don't know.
Right, exactly.
I have the hardest time with all of this decision making in such uncertain times.
Right.
About
Right.
any $5 million, whoever's $5 million it is, going to a building that might be.
So the 1B though, the idea is that those windows and those univents, right? If they're already doing the work of removing them, and our windows are old and near replacement time as is our univents, they're going to do all this work, putting the old ones back up and getting them caulked in and putting in place just so, we potentially, if the building's still here after consolidation, have to rip them out again in 10 years. So again, do I think you're going to be able to pass upon? No. But, this is a serious consideration.
And that,
I
in a
like
better position, worse position, I think, with the issue identified, we don't do anything, then you're kind of guaranteeing if there is consolidation.
You're past.
I mean, if I'm looking at this from Montpelier, like this school's got PCBs and they didn't fix it, see you later. Closed, moving on. No, they remediated it, updated it, they've invested in the infrastructure. It's more valuable inventory.
Gives you a chance.
Are this,
Solid.
are the schools around us built in the same time where they would also have PCBs? Old schools, just thinking Bellas Falls,
Yeah.
Springfield, the schools that, like, if
Springfield.
you're looking at it,
Springfield was old when I taught there in the late eighties.
but what was the year, what's the year that, the years that the PCBs were in? Is
The
it the
PCB era, I mean, they,
50s, 70s?
50s, 60s and 70s, yeah.
So
And they're
there, so
barely.
all of us are PCB and we would be the only one.
Right.
Well,
I kind of like the idea of like the à la carte.
Yeah. me
And
too.
then it, as funds or if funds become available for grants.
That's my other question. As Lane said, are we gonna be able to pass a bond? I don't think so at all. So we talk about other funds. What are we talking about?
Right.
So we started, the board listened last year when we went into the budget season, the board started putting money into a reserve account for facilities.
Yeah.
I think it's, without checking, I got too many things running on the screen to go in and look. I think you're in the $600,000 range in reserves, that you could use, not potentially for this, because you got to also consider the boiler piece. But if you're able to keep that going and build up that funding over time, then you never have to go out to bond. Right, the money is there. If it's being put into that facilities account, the town is voting it in, like it's done, and that's what it has to be used for. I've never had to go out to bond, so if you decide you want to, it'll be a learning experience for me because I've always worked to put stuff in reserve funds and pay for it that way.
Could this school fit? If it, like, could this school feasibly be the regional? If the new map that came out the other day, they said, this is the school for this region, could this school fit those students?
So this school it would be up to 600. The benefit that it's got going for it is depending upon which of the three maps that have come out lately. We're off in one corner.
Springfield goes well.
We also, the town of Chester is working on a 100-unit housing development right there that should be in place or getting well underway in the next 5 to 7 years. So that's gonna provide some comfort to Green Mountain as those negotiations go on about who's open and who shouldn't be. It's going to be hard to close a school if you're building 100 units that might be bringing in.
Sure, but if they were the region and Springfield is a high school and Bellas Falls is a high school, there's 3 high schools and we're gonna go down to 1.
It would
could this
it would
take-
most likely be Woodstock. Based on the larger maps. Well,
I don't know
Yeah.
Vermont's map.
actually, we'll actually look at the 2 maps when I do my superintendent's report. So you got to get us back on track. Sorry about that. That was a good conversation.
So are we looking to make some decision on this or was this more informational?
there's just a little bit, just because straight into the discussion came up from these questions. So because any work that would involve window replacements could not begin to be implemented until next summer, there was an opportunity to begin work either include under using what we're calling option 1A, either including or omitting the 3rd floor. And then, we're going to have, a good half a year to see how we did before we would need to, get those orders in for replacement windows in time to be able to do that. Now, if we were to include the 3rd floor, then there's a chance, and then we don't get the results that we want, then we might be, we'd be gambling about, somewhere $300,000 to $400,000 in abatement costs that would sort of be duplicated if we don't. No? Okay, so
If you decide that you wanna go out and get windows, we're not gonna start remediating the 3rd floor, we're gonna put some
Right.
windows and not take some stuff out and let the talking in the windows contaminate the stuff that you just. So.
Oh, yeah. No.
I think would obligate the money that we have set aside for Green Mountain, and you can look at funding sources for windows and we would do it all at one time, which makes the most sense.
I see, and not approach window caulks in other areas. If they were just gonna do 3rd floor replacements, postpone implementation period
That would be
until.
my-
Okay.
We hold the money for you. You can look at funding options. I know we shared USD with you, and the commissioner really thinks it's a great option for you. And try and move everything all at once, disposal all at once.
What's the risk if we choose an option that delays work? In terms of potentially losing the money that's available?
If we obligate in a purchase order, so we put the, whatever we have available for 4 to 5 aside for you, then it shows up as obligated.
It's locked in.
And that's what we're doing, we would do that. If within a couple months you determine that window feasibility just isn't gonna work for you, then we can push Craig to go forward and try and make something happen this summer. But I would highly recommend that you look at window replacement at the same time. And so that you do everything.
And for the longstanding reason that they're overdue.
I apologize if this is a silly question. Why is there just this broad range of 4 to 5 million? Like, that's just a very,
That's
okay.
Big chunk.
Not a silly question, but
And we're working through 6 schools for the 9.5 million. And some of the schools might come in under budget. We're also working to get, I guess, Agency of Education's money closed out. So there's a range of money. So whatever excess money is available, we're putting into Green Mountain School. So that's why it's a range.
Got it. Okay, so if we were to still guarantee we would get 5 if, say, we went forward.
It's a potential. I mean, I think if we can work, if there's something else in the corrective action plan that should really happen and it's an extra $500,000, I think if you look at all of the statutes that are out there on this, the state is still obligated. Even if they stop the PCB program, the state is still obligated for it, however it works out. We have other funding in DC. If it's $500,000, I'm pretty sure I could find $500,000 to close that gap if it's needed. I just don't have $2.5 million.
Right.
And if we could do it all at once, I'm convinced it would make a huge difference. I know money's tight everywhere. I'm looking at my school budget for my school. But if there are ways to find other public funds that could help go into this, Cassie and I are happy to help with that process.
See. I guess 2 years break.
Any other thoughts or questions at this time? So continue on.
and I did summarize this in a handout that I believe Wayne distributed to you and has all my contact information. If anybody wants to reach out with additional questions.
When do we need to let you know so you can plan a workforce here?
Well, I mean, if
Now?
it would be great now, if you want to make a decision, to pursue additional funds to do the window and the HVAC replacements. And, the HVAC guys here, and for the window guy too. That would be great to know, if there we can plan. If there's, or if you feel it the exact opposite way, which is, let's just go ahead and do whatever we can afford to do with the funds being made available by DEC. I mean, I think that's, if you want to consider that, that's what's for consideration.
I mean, it seems like we could go for the bigger window replacement, and then if we don't get the money,
Yeah, I'm not against that.
do something else.
And I think that's the right thing to do.
Sets us up to be
Because
in good shape
it's needed not only for PCBs, but.
in general.
Heating and structure, I mean, it's efficiency.
Yeah.
But it would have to be a grant. It just wouldn't.
Yeah, we never.
Okay, so
Would
what
the
is
US
the board's
Would the
pleasure?
USDA money to fund the 2.5 million?
So my commissioner was from USA, and she's going to give us this information.
Yeah.
It sounds like.
Yeah, I can't-
Really want to hear you
Oh.
all the way over here.
That'd be cool. So the question is the USDA grant, would it be possible to cover the difference to 2.5 million?
I was saying that our current commissioner at DEC was with USDA doing this work. So she gave us all the information. She seemed to think that it would be feasible, that you probably have a higher likelihood of getting the funding if, since the state is also putting funding into the project. And so it looks like there's other investments happening. I think the first thing to do is just to call the contact person that I shared with you in St. Johnsbury, just to start the conversation. So you know what the likelihood is and what's happening. Misty also suggested getting in touch with your congressional delegates just to have them help push this since it's federal funds. But knowing that our commissioner is invested in this and also worked in USDA, I think she could be a great advocate for you if that's a path you want.
Do you have any sense of how long the process takes?
I didn't get that far. I wanted to make sure you knew about the money, but like I said, Cassie, I'm happy to help over we can.
Someone want to make a motion?
Yes, but I don't know exactly how to
That's
word it.
exactly what I was thinking.
Are we going a la carte or hybrid?
Try to
It's
get
true.
more money.
Yeah, me too.
At least explore
Yep.
more money to go for the 1B.
Yep.
With window, what, hybrid, I don't know.
Can we get
See,
one
now I'm
feedback up
confused.
there?
Can we, yeah.
Windows, so that we do windows in the univents
Number two.
and,
Okay.
So school-wide is that second one, the hybrid, where, we just focus the window HVAC.
And can you-
Third floor is number 3.
And you can elaborate on Univents, what's going on with that, if you were gonna do that? Would you be dealing with that? Would you be handling that? Would you be overseeing it?
Yeah, so we would then, so in either of the cases, wherever we're removing windows, we would manage
That's what I'm asking.
the
Scope of project.
The scope of the project is it actually, the remediation costs are lower for us to demo those windows. That's for the remediation side of it. Then there are additional general contractor costs, everything, I mean, the whole system has to be drained, et cetera, made safe. And that would all be done with a partner company, almost certainly EI, who has been just very helpful in, helping us understand this, and has worked with the school before. And they would do the reinstallation of the new windows and the new units
sorry, I'm
and
having
controls.
little trouble following along. An additional, so number 2 would require an additional 7.8 million, in addition to what? The 7.5 million that was 1B? So it's 14 million?
So this would be in addition to the 4 to 5 million that's coming from the state.
So we would need to find an additional 7 to 8 million.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking,
I was thinking number 3, sir.
right, the hybrid would be the 2.5.
This is where we just do the window and unit vent replacements on the 3rd floor, which is where we have the highest.
Maybe within striking range levels. That's one.
Right.
Yep.
For sure.
Well, that's why I was,
Right,
I was
that's the
misunderstanding
a la
like the a la carte.
That's
And then we hope to be able to do like number 3 on top of it was my.
That's what I think too, yeah. Because I just don't think we could get an additional
Yeah,
7
there's
to
no-
8 million without.
Right.
USD is probably not 7 to 8
We'll find
million.
out.
Is USD open sales? I don't know. Sorry.
Good point.
Your grants is open.
Yes, it is.
Are open.
Okay, that's good to know.
Final thoughts.
Kind of feels like something to sit on for a little bit. I mean, we didn't really get a handout. It seems like there's a lot of unanswered questions and uncertainty. I feel like if we make a decision right now, it's kind of just a knee-jerk reaction. Yeah.
We've been talking about this for some time.
They kind of like an answer today.
Yeah. And the money's there. I don't want to lose it.
Right, I think it's a good idea. I'm glad they're here.
And the good thing is we're not getting anything beyond what has been allocated to us at this point.
Right.
Which makes me more comfortable going forward. Well, it's there.
Is there a more proper term than a la carte?
I wouldn't call it a la carte just simply because the proposed initial corrective action plan is, I mean, it is a a group of action items, but it's curated, I guess. I mean, it's not, you're just picking, from a Chinese menu. We're focusing on the,
Do you have a title for that?
Yeah, just for the motion, I'm just saying like, like, is it like the proposed corrective action with an, I don't want to say hope, an intention to then pursue the hybrid
Yeah.
or option 3. Does that sound more reasonable? So the proposed corrective action with intent to pursue coordinated remediation of PC, like reading that. So
I think it is selecting number 3, but knowing that we might have to change course if we don't get any additional money.
Yeah.
Just go with the.
and in the handout that you received, they are broken out as like, unfortunately, I used the word bond in there, more than that, just replacing with additional funding. But it's, the options are, what we're proposing, what we can accomplish with available funds and stipulations. What we can accomplish with an additional 7 to 8 million for school-wide window and unit replacements, and what we can accomplish with a hybrid plan, which is the initial corrective action plan with special attention to window replacements and units on the 3rd floor only. And the 3rd floor would also, I should just add, it's not just every window you see around you here, it would be all of the stairwell windows at every level. It would be all the atrium windows that up on the 3rd floor. So, I mean, it's more than just the classrooms.
It's also important to note that even if we don't bring younger kids into this school, this is where our youngest kids are already.
Exactly.
So the
For sure.
7th graders are not much bigger than 6th graders.
Yes.
Should we vote on option 3? Would work start this summer or was that pushed off to 27?
Well, I mean, that sounds like we're having a discussion about it. I mean,
Push to Windows, right? Can we get some window answers?
so, I mean, ideally, we could just, go to Home Depot and get the stuff,
Sure.
tomorrow. But no, there's a long lead time
Yeah.
to get the stuff made. So if we were to do everything at the time that we have funding to do the windows, then we would begin summer of 2027. We continue the way we have until that time. However, I mean, I think that we could, if we are using the hybrid approach, I don't think there's any reason. I mean, Chris seems to have a different opinion, why we could use the 1A approach to remove the costs in other areas of the school. And, maybe if not in this section of the school, maybe on the other side or something like that. But just to get work started, or, we can the whole thing.
It seems like maybe the only thing we can do is authorize Lane to go look and see if we can't find any more money.
I got it. Cheryl's gonna be on it when she gets back on Monday.
Right.
We're just slowly moving forward with option.
All right, so-
If that's the.
option 3, is that where everybody's
With the
at?
understanding that we won't do it if we can't find.
On additional funding.
Additional funding.
It's gotta be put in the.
Grant funding, right? Additional grant. Grant funding.
Somebody willing to make that motion? 'Cause we're approaching an hour already.
I move that we adopt option 3 as laid out here, by John Turner Consulting, with the caveat that we will pursue it with additional grant funding to fill the funding gap in the option. Second. Yeah.
Is there further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Can I share my screen link?
Thank you very much for your
Guys,
time.
I'm gonna
Thank you.
rip through this thing.
Okay.
You
I
have,
saw you come in, so you should be able to share.
Do you need a stand?
There's a stand right behind you.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
There you go. Coming up.
What?
Yeah. I'll be quiet. So-
Want me to pull out the stand? Or go?
Oh, I think I'm fine. I'll just jump back. I'm good. I'm hoping mine won't be as complex as that, but I have no promises here because a boiler is more than just a boiler and I'll go over that. Mechanical room, guys, I'm just trying to point this out, but these are all the components that make up your mechanical room. You have your actual boilers that heat the water. That's what you're looking at here. Your pumps that move the water around the space. You have electric that powers the equipment. controls that actually operate and make sure that these things provide what they're supposed to be doing. You have a fuel source, which in this case is fuel oil for you guys. You guys have piping and glycol, right? That's what moves the heat around the building. And then you have the space that houses the boiler, all right? Those are all the components we're looking at in the mechanical room. I do have a Matterport scan here. I can take you guys through a quick walkthrough of the boiler room if you guys haven't seen it before, if you have any care for it. Seen it, great. Jumping through. All right, here we go. Oil usage. You guys spend about $100,000 a year in oil. It equates to about 37,000 gallons a year in oil. So that's what your guys' baseline energy. Boilers, you got 2 boilers. Budera's boiler on the left is 14 years old. HB Smith on the right is original to the building. They're about 37 years old. I think that's not original to the building. Building's 50 years old. The boiler on the right, your HB Smith, keeps cracking heat exchangers. It's done it each year for the last few years. That's because you guys have an antiquated piping system. So you have a 3-way valve up here. This is a control system. What we're trying to do is prevent thermal shock for the boilers. The boilers produce 180-degree hot water. You guys, it gets a cold slug of 75-degree water that's been sitting in your room because nothing's moved for a while. 180 gets hit with 75, cracks a heat exchanger. Unfortunately, with the piping arrangement that you guys have in here right now, I can't really just replace a boiler and say that it's not going to crack the heat exchanger in the future. Because the piping arrangement is an antiquated piping arrangement. Nobody pipes a system like this today because it is prone to crack heat exchangers. But you do have a 3-way valve up here as well. Typically, these boilers, if they're well maintained, these are a cast iron boiler. They say 30 to 40 years on them. So you guys are towards the end of your useful life on that. Budera still has some useful life. Pumps are old, very old. 40 years old, probably, roughly. 2 main circulator pumps. That's what you guys see down here on the floor. Constant volume, 5 horsepower. They run all the time. Well, the heating season starts in October. Then you guys shut them off at the end of the year. They're lead lag, right? So they're redundancy behind them. If one fails, the other one can get turned on manually. They still provide heat to the building. You guys have 2 other small circulator pumps. Those are pumps 3 and 4. Also, those pick up your gymnasium and your cafeteria. Those are small, little 1 horsepower pumps. They cost $800. You can go to the store and replace it tomorrow. No big deal. 5 horsepower. That's a base mounted pump. 6 to 8 week lead time if it fails. Generally speaking, they don't fail too often. You have a redundant system. They're very inefficient. Probably should get replaced. Space consideration. You guys have a bunch of asbestos down there, which is great to prevent fires because you guys don't have a sprinkler system throughout your building. You should probably take it out. All the asbestos ceiling tile up here is hot, and then a handful of the mechanical joints is hot. So it's not a ton of stuff comparatively, but unfortunately, when we get into this space to do work, we're going to have to get above the ceiling to be able to hang hangers. And as you guys can see, people probably get up above those ceilings quite a bit because there's pipes up there, there's things to look at, and you really shouldn't be moving around ceiling tiles with asbestos unless you have full containment in place. So
When you say they're hot, you mean they have asbestos or they're like physically hot?
no, they have asbestos. Sorry.
It's a term I
very
know.
small. It's like
I know what
1%.
hot
I'm
means,
sorry.
but not that.
Anything's hot, we call it has asbestos.
Got it.
Don't touch. The other things that we have to do is fire seal the space. So required to have a 2-hour fire rating sealing around the whole space. You guys are lucky. It's all block wall for the most part. The only thing I'm covering up, there's like 4 or 5 penetrations over the years. People, put a new conduit in, they punch a hole, they don't block it. It's pretty cool. Fuel oil tank, 37 years old, installed in 1988, sits right outside of your mechanical room. Fuel oil tank should be replaced at roughly 30 years. That's about the life expectancy. You guys have picked up an extra 7 years out of the tank.
Do we know if that current tank has the proper environmental containment, or is that something that's going to be an addition?
So the tank itself really needs to get old, well past its useful life. When they pull the tank, like a Harper Environmental will come by, they do an assessment, they'll have to check all the ground stuff. If it's contaminated, the state has funds to be able to.
Sure they do.
So what this all comes back to is a handful of options. This is my ECM matrix specific to the boiler. This is what I call my chop and swap option. This is your take your old HB Smith boiler, chop the pipes off, slide a new boiler in. Sticking with oil, update your three-way valve, which has failed, to hopefully try to get those controls working again. In there again, it's about 238,000, but it really doesn't solve all the issues that you guys have in your space. I broke out the pricing in here. I probably should have said that beforehand. I apologize. So we have code upgrades to the mechanical room. That's pretty minimal. That's what I said, just fire sealing to hit that 2-hour rating. Asbestos abatement, ceiling tile and pipe insulation. Install of the removal of the underground fuel oil tank over here. I'm giving you guys two options. There's an option to go with an LP propane system. There's also an option to stick with oil. So really don't want to be involved with maintaining the existing oil tank. So I did give you the option here. Direct boiler replacement oil with piping upgrades. So that's keeping the Buderus boiler that still has some useful life behind it, but repiping that room, redoing all the pumps. And your savings here are really just on your VFDs for your pumps. I get about $2,000 on the savings for that. Rebates are very specific. They're just to the pumps. You're not going to get a rebate on an oil-fired boiler.
Savings of $2,000 in what time period?
1 year.
Week?
Annual.
A year.
Everything's annual in here. Sorry, should have said that as well. Boiler upgrade with LP condensing boiler. This is strip your mechanical room, start all over, new LP boilers, get rid of the oil altogether. $14,000 a year in saving. It's incorporating the $2,000 from the pump, and then there's an additional $12,000 from the fuel switch. Existing boiler right now is probably about 77% efficient. New boiler coming in is probably going to operate around 93, 94%. Rebates, you get $5,000 per condensing boiler over 1 million BTUs from Efficiency Vermont. They won't give you guys any more. You'll get about 13,000 for rebates on that specifically. So then when I sit here and I add some of these options up, because these are kind of broken out for you guys, you have the option 1, my chop and swap, keep controls, oil tank, just replace the Well-McLean. Don't really think about all the other issues that you have, but I want to fix my boiler. It's 241,000. You're not going to save anything. It's an inefficient boiler. It's going to be another inefficient boiler. Pumps remain the same. New oil boiler system with new tank. Keep the Buderus. Total cost of $733,000. You get the savings from the pump. You're going to fix that issue where you're getting the thermal shock to the boilers. Your system's going to be more maintained. This is a 20-year option. You guys do this. You guys replace the oil tank, put a new underground oil tank in. Hopefully it's going to last another 37 years for you guys. Boilers in there. Your Buderus is, 14 years old. It's going to last another 20 years if it's properly maintained. That costs $733,000. It's a 20-year option as well. New LP boiler, starting all over. Repipe the mechanical room, all new controls. This thing's going to run by itself. Don't even have to turn the gas boilers on at the beginning of the year. They'll run off an outdoor reset. Oil boiler, you don't have as many options. The controls aren't as specific on an oil boiler than you get with the LP. Total cost on the LP boilers, $923,000, savings of $14,000, and rebates of $13,000. Propane versus oil. So this is the question that we always have. The gas option's $176,750 more than the oil boiler option if you're doing kind of apples to apples in the mechanical room. Gas boiler will have a better turnaround ratio. It's going to be more efficient in the shoulder seat. We're going to run it on a condensing style, so it's going to have 40-degree delta T. Annual maintenance on an oil versus gas. Gas would be approximately $2,500 a year less. Maintaining the oil boilers, around $3,500 a unit. Gas boiler is about $2,200-$2,300 on annual service agreements. But it's a little cheaper to maintain. Less filters. You're not replacing as many parts, cleaning nozzles. If you add in the maintenance, roughly $2,500 a year difference, plus the energy savings around $12,000. After about 12 years, that gas boiler becomes cheaper than the oil boiler to run over that period of time. Life expectancy of an LP system, those boilers, you're talking 25 years, maybe longer, 25, 30. A lot of it has to do with maintenance, how well you guys keep up your water systems. That's a huge component of it. Significant CO2 reduction, talking 37% reduction by going to a propane system, equivalent to removing 24 cars a year off the street, which is pretty amazing. I thought that was kind of cool. I ran those numbers. Financing the project. Keep coming back. One thing that I haven't mentioned yet, guys, I haven't figured it out yet. I got this thing highlighted in yellow, it's glycol. That's what keeps your pipes from freezing. And your glycol is spoiled. It's actually like a sugar solution. And they put it in your pipe. The percentage of your glycol you guys have these unit ventilators we've been talking about them a lot. It's a coil on the outside of the building. There's a louver out there. It brings in fresh air. That glycol makes sure that that coil doesn't freeze up and burst on you guys. The glycol here has been spoiled. Glycol will last about 15 to 20 years. It's a sugar. So if something gets into it, it's a bacteria. It's going to smell. So when your glycol leaks, what you guys are actually smelling is the bacteria breaking down the sugars inside of that. So it's actually spoiled. It's interesting. Found out a lot about glycol history. Glycol too that we use. So,
But it's not a safety issue.
it's not a health safety in the fact that people are going to be like sick, but the stuff stinks. And a lot of people have like a nauseous feel when they smell it.
Like health issue, like, because we've had a spill, so just
No, there's no. It's a yeah.
stinks. Okay.
It just stinks. And a lot of people get headaches when they smell it.
Right.
Is it caustic in the pipes at all?
It is. It eats the pipes.
Yeah, that's probably why you're getting into that. That's why.
It eats the pipe, especially the steel. Copper is a little bit more resistant to it, but it will, if you let that go, become very acidic, and that's what's going to eat away at your pipes. I put 75 grand. I haven't, this isn't included in my price, guys, right now, but I have to test this a little bit more to figure out what I need to do to get it back up and running. Ideal situation is I can put some different additives into it and I can save. Yeah, and I might be able to save it. I don't know if that's the case. There's times when that stuff goes by so stinking bad.
Sure.
I gotta test it. When I was in Springfield, this is like, it was straight sludge. I mean, you're talking like 3-4 inch pipe like that. And there was like 3/4 of it was filled with black tar.
So you filter that out with filters. And you change your socks monthly and you have your staff change those filters, add the corrosive inhibitors, and you will balance your system.
It takes a long time, but it does. It's a labor of love.
Especially with a system if you had the size of this, 5,000 gallons, whatever's in the system. So each building you do that with.
Yep.
Have your inhibitors that you add to. So you can balance them.
You want to get on a chemical treatment system.
Yes.
Without a doubt. So you have a side stream filter that you're referring to. That's a sock filter a lot of times that we would put on a system.
Have to.
This system as well. If you go with the LP system, you want a mag filter. You want air and dirt separators. You guys got old pipes. They're 50 years old. They're at the end of its life. I would like to probably go and test a few of your guys' main runs to see if it's had an impact on the actual piping system. I haven't opened them up because it's been season all year. But this spring, we can cut them open, see what the condition of it is. And if we can save it, amazing. I would like to try to do it. Sometimes it's not savable and you have to flush it. We were over there. I had to cut out pipe at Springfield, like just because we could not blow through this stuff. It was that gummed up.
So are you saying that if we like did this replacement, everything, then we would also have to be on this maintenance schedule that you just.
We're not addressing that. It's not in there. So you.
But you're
other
saying it's
items-
something we should do.
You should, yes.
Oh, okay.
It's
gotcha.
just different items that should be added.
Okay.
Those are inhibitors. Those are things in a system, 1,000 gallons, 2,000 gallons. You put in the socks, in the tanks, just to help.
No. I was just asking, like, is this
Save the
something that
plant.
could save us, or is this something that we do in a preventative manner moving forward?
Should be
Okay,
preventative.
all right.
If you guys are investing $1 million into your mechanical room, you're gonna want to make sure that you have good water flowing through it as well. Condensing boilers are not as robust as your big cast iron oil boilers. Oil boilers, I mean, put sludge through them. They're gonna push sludge through at the end of the day. Condensing boilers, you're gonna want a good chemical treatment system. And it's something that, like anything, if you maintain it, a glycol should last 20+ years. If it's not maintained, it's gonna spoil and you have to replace it. So.
On the chop and swap, you said, we're taking out one old, inefficient boiler and putting in another. That can't be true. A new boiler compared to that dinosaur has to be
It's
significantly
probably,
more efficient.
it's probably about 7 to 8% more efficient. Than the
Total.
old system. Yeah. Specific.
At the efficiency it's running now or what it was as an original boiler?
I haven't run like specific efficiency factors. I mean, if you read like the EPA, they would say that that boiler's probably lost like 6 or 7% efficiency. Originally it was probably around 80. The HV Smith, they're saying is 86% efficient. If I went and read the EPA, they would tell me to test that existing HV Smith at 73% efficiency because it does lose it over a period of time.
That's what I'm saying. So what we think, that you're not taking that into consideration now with that 70%. You're just saying compared to what that was for efficiency at the beginning of its life.
Yeah, I don't show energy savings typically on oil to oil boilers.
Sure.
Because I have a tough time calculating
Yeah.
that because I just have to do more time.
What's the general efficiency on the propane?
I mean, the boiler would be rated to like 96, 97%, probably. Or 93, somewhere in there. We'd have to set it up to condense. It's a 30-degree delta. There might be times of the year when we're in that -10 degree. I can't run a 40-degree delta. I have to drop it to a 20 degree. And that's when I get back to my 85% efficiency, where it's no different than a oil. I can't do any of that stuff unless I have an advanced control system, which is included as part of that propane. If it's on the oil side, there's only so much you can do with controls. They're about a two-fire system for the most part. Right now, one of the other issues that you guys have, boilers are sized for the most part, whole system capacity. Ideally, you're sizing your boilers around 70, 80, 70%, or 75%, because you do want your boilers. You want them to switch, lead lag, which one's taking on the load. You want both boilers to run in tandem at times when it's really cold out. But the system you guys have now, just turned one boiler on, other boiler sat there for 2 years, and if nobody noticed it, then they go to fire that thing, and of course it doesn't fire because it's been sitting there for 2 years. So you want your boilers to run. They want to come on and off. You don't want them sitting. That's what it is.
Can you tell us the life of each option? I know you said one of them was a 20-year option, but I don't know which one, and I'd like to know all three.
Okay, so I would say that option number one, you guys are going to be coming back here next year looking to do more work.
So you're telling me the new boiler is only going to last 1 year? That's what I want to know, is how long?
This is option number one. Option number one, chop and swap.
Right, we're replacing one boiler.
That boiler that we would replace it with that would have a 30 to 40-year life.
Okay,
Okay, the other boiler that would remain, that boiler is already 14 years old.
right,
Also has a 30 to 40-year life expectancy. So say you have another
20 years then.
20 years on that one. Okay. But I don't think it's going to last that long because you guys are going to thermal shock those boilers and you're going to be running into more issues because you're not actually addressing.
Oh, so the other work that we're doing there with that doesn't address that shocking
Changing any
issue.
pipes on option one. It's just the way.
If you just did that, so the idea is that it's an increased wear and tear if you just did number one.
Yes.
Same failures we've been having.
I would replace the three-way valve.
That's
I
what
would
I
try
thought
to
you were
get that
saying.
three-way valve up and running. The three-way valve is supposed to be a diverting valve that allows the system to not thermal shock.
Is that in that option?
This one right here?
Yes.
Yes, it is in that option.
It is in that option.
So
So
how-
swapping the three-way valve,
Put in a new three-way valve, but it's
expansion tank.
expansion tank is going to remain. Expansion tank's fine. I wasn't going to replace it.
No, I was asking for a receiving tank from your coming back, so you can get your tank to make sure that you're 20 degrees variance going back to shock your boiler.
I did not include that. You want a buffer tank in that one?
Correct. So that then you would be able to manage your delta change. You would be able to do that so that a larger tank's probably 150 gallons, 200 gallons. I understand it's a cost, but then you're not shocking so much.
Yeah.
And we're not jumping from 240,000 to 740,000. Right?
Also, we went 37 years with those pipes.
Absolutely.
Like they're classics. They're not antiquated. Like I don't understand how to go 37 years
Vintage.
without having a
Our
problem.
vintage.
Like how can that be the problem? I don't understand. You don't have to explain it to me because I don't do your job. You
There's
don't
the
do mine, but that doesn't make
three-way valve
sense.
and some other items will help.
Right.
Right.
That seems like the more
For me, with everything going on and all that 73 stuff and the money we might need to spend elsewhere, we don't have $750,000 or $1 million. We just don't. We have $240,000
That we allocated.
right
for this
now
last year.
that we allocated, that we could take care of this issue.
Allocated more, didn't we? So
Yes.
there'd be some more, like some of the additional things that you're talking about that we
Yes.
might be able to like do the chop and swap plus.
I
Plus
just,
the
Replace the
I
tank.
just checked the current numbers. You'd want Cheryl to double check, but, there's 620,000 available.
Yeah.
Facilities right now.
You can be financed. Doesn't necessarily have to be paid for. All right. So there's a financing option. I'm going to throw it out there. 20-year term, state of Vermont allows you to finance or lease a piece of equipment for up to 20 years. Throwing out a few scenarios. I can throw any scenario you want, but I just put this in for things. It's $1 million project. Picking $1 million, $400,000 of capital funds go into it. You guys are leasing $600,000. Okay. $600,000 lease, roughly 5% interest rate that I would anticipate you would get. We'd have to go out and shop for it. Monthly payments of $3,748, yearly payments of $44,000. Annual energy savings of $14,000. The net impact to the budget is $30,800. That's paid over a 20-year period.
What happens if our school gets closed in 5 years?
Then whoever takes on your sending school assumes the lease. And they have to figure out what to do with your lease. The other option is you can do a USDA loan, 10 years at 2%. They max out at 10 years. That's the longest that they'll do their loan. It's an energy efficiency loan. It's great. It's only 2% interest rate. With a $600,000 loan, monthly payments are $62,500. And I let the net out, but 62 minus the 14, you're looking at what, $48,000 a year roughly in payment difference on that. So these can be financed. This loan is about obviously 2%. I think your total payments on this on a 600,000 at over 10 years, like 660,000. Right? It's like $60,000 difference. Financing 600,000 over 20 years at 5%, you're paying 900,000 total over that 20 year.
It can't be a monthly payment of 62,000. Your last sentence there.
Oh, sorry. That's yearly. That's yearly.
Okay.
That's yearly.
Yeah, yeah.
That's yearly.
Have an estimate of additional cost if we did the $241,000 option with the valve and a couple other things that we just discussed prior.
And whatever Rick was saying with the
Socks.
socks.
Well, no, with the tank.
It's just a buffer tank.
Yeah.
It's a tank that you're keeping your temperature, your variance temperature coming back from your room.
So we're not shocking
Your boiler room, so not shocking your boiler, cracking your machine.
Do you have an idea of what that additional cost would be for that valve and that tank?
I have the three-way valve initially in it. I'd have to look into the buffer tank option.
Okay.
I haven't done that.
So probably not
The
significant.
buffer tank would be a whole. It would be, if I was throwing out a cost on it, it's got to be full size line size going to the unit, right? It's going to receive hot and cold water because that's now your thermal dump coming in and out of the space. I'm thinking it's probably around $100,000 to do a buffer tank when it's all said and done. It's not going to be 200 gallons. It's probably going to be about 800 gallons.
It's so funny because in my mind I thought it was be like 150, 20 bucks.
No, I mean, you're talking like, it's going to be all four.
Yeah, but you're protecting your.
It's 4 6-inch, all welded lines going to the unit. You gotta insulate the tank and everything.
Taking out the two electric. How are you?
What about
Are you taking out
the big ones, the unused ones?
the ones that are about 10 grand worth of copper?
Oh, you want those ones? My theory on, so my theory on those tanks was anybody wants to take them for free, they're theirs. That's what I would say on those tanks. If you want those tanks, go freaking get them. You think you're gonna make money on that? Good luck. Good luck. There's money in scrap, but those things are all stuck in there. Good luck with this. Someone's gonna be in there in a torch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be tough.
Unless you do a garage door.
Okay, moving on.
Yeah.
All right, you guys have any questions for me? I don't need any decision. All this equipment's 4 to 6 weeks out.
Yeah.
Lead time wise, okay? Not any super lead time long. I think by April, I think you guys would want to make a decision somehow.
So my question would be could you do this over the summer?
Oh, yeah. No problem.
In, out, done.
How many week project is it? If you had all the materials.
I'd say like really from start to finish, you're probably talking 2 months. Start to finish. I think like actual mechanical piping, it's probably talking a month. I got about a week of abatement to start with, to get the asbestos out of there. And then you're probably talking, there's prep time, probably doing some new pads in there to prep it. All depends on what option you guys go with. If you guys just do the little chop and swap three-way valve, you're talking 2 weeks.
Right.
If you guys do a full new mechanical room, either the options 2 or number 3, that's 2 months, but I think we don't have any issues getting that thing up and running for school.
Okay, we did the chop and swap.
Chop and swap plus under
No, just in timing.
2-3 weeks, you think?
Like a month or so.
asbestos abatements a week. I mean, code upgrades are a couple days. Removing a fuel oil tank, putting new tanks in is a couple weeks. They can all kind of go concurrently. And when
So you need us to make a decision by April for this to be completed this summer.
Eric, what is the lowest amount that we would put down if we were to take more of it onto the lease over the 20 years? What is the lowest amount? What I'm getting at there is to use less capital reserve money. And if people are worried that, in my mind, moving forward, and we're not going anywhere, but if anything happened, somebody took on the lease, then it would be less of a worry to end up not using all of our capital reserve in one hit.
yeah,
You have to put down a minimum amount.
there's no real minimum amount on the leasing company. For the leasing company, they want to lease more than they want to lease less at the end of the day. Bigger dollar, you get lower rates. The lower the lease value, the higher the rates. If you did a $3 million lease, you guys are probably looking at like a 4.5% interest rate, maybe 4.25%. If you guys went and did a bond, you're probably talking like 0.5% interest rate.
What happens at the end of the lease? Who owns
You
it?
own it. Just take it. The lease is just a.
There's not like a payment to pay off whatever. Okay.
No, it's not. Anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. If you guys literally want me to sit there and design a buffer tank, I'm gonna have to spend some time and look into that a little bit. And look into the buffer tank option as well. I do have full drawings on this already, put out everything we did at this point. I could put it back out to bid. I want to go with a reputable company, that somebody that has backed up that can actually service.
We have a company.
You're gonna
Yes.
Appreciate it.
warranty, you get 1 year, depending on what it is. Heat exchangers have it. 1 year parts and labor, expensive. For us, we would want to be involved in commissioning and staying with the system. Hopefully it's all. You can actually make adjustments from my computer, not coming down here all the time. If you guys went with the first option, it's not that. The pneumatics, it's all pneumatics right now. There's not very many pneumatic people, so you can make it work, but there's no like remote adjustments. You're sending some.
I think that's what I was gonna ask. That sounds like a lot of interest in the chop and swap option plus other things. Regarding the controls, I think you just answered that it would be all manual controls. I wouldn't be able to.
It's not necessarily manual, it's a pneumatic system. There's like time clocks associated with it. Honestly, I would have to spend some more time looking at, there's this guy, Brian Boucher or Gaylord. There's like 2 pneumatic people in the state at this point. The pneumatics are Johnson Controls, they're 40. They're really about 7.
Well, I think that's one of the issues that I have with the system now is that we have no controls.
And is there, so for me, some sort, like if something happened in that system was flooding down there, right? Can we put something in? I know some of the smaller houses that I maintain, there's a flood sensor.
Yeah, you can do like, I mean, your basic is just like a water bug or
Yeah,
something like
right.
that. I mean, a
That
water bug.
or
You can set that, you can buy one on Amazon and send it to your phone if you want to.
Yeah.
If the DDC system and you put in a leak detection or something like that, it's pretty easy.
Sure.
Onto that system. I mean,
So
yeah,
each of these schools that Todd runs, other than Green Mountain. So Chester, Cavendish, Mount Holly, all the others have controls.
Yeah.
Control Tech is running that for them.
Right.
He did not talk about adding a small upgrade to add into CTES and all the others so that one person could look at them.
And know what's going on.
On a single platform?
You already have that. They've already upgraded the Chester Andover CTES.
On the Niagara DDC
Niagara,
control system?
yeah.
Yep, yeah, no, the number here on the new outdated system would be full DDC control integration into that other system.
But if you were to add the chop and swap,
Probably $40,000, 45,000.
which would be good for Todd or whoever is the person that's running the operation for them for.
Well, yeah, it's Christmas and something.
Hello.
Explode.
All right, guys,
Yep.
My time is
yeah,
up.
we're gonna come into,
I'm happy to take any phone calls if people have design ideas and suggestions that they want to float by. I'm also happy to come back.
yeah, and I think so, I think just so we're kind of maybe all on the same page, like this, we are not in the optional stage anymore, like this has to happen, so I would really ask the board to look at these numbers, critique a couple of ideas that, you know, because there's gonna be some people not here next month, including some new people here. So, I would like, you know, people to be putting thought into this, the options, if you wouldn't mind, since I'm really doing this way, if you wouldn't mind sending those to someone that will be here.
Already had.
And, and then if we can get those options maybe to him prior to, so like I'm gonna totally watch this, the buffer tank.
Yeah.
That control thingy, the water, but like all of those things, if we could get that to him prior to the next month's meeting, so we can come back, so we don't push you through this again.
Could we go for another meeting? Still have this board building?
Do you know what you want right now for the additions that you think? Cause I would make a motion
Yes.
to have, you know, him generate
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Easily.
that way everybody knows exactly what it is the board is looking at for the open meeting part. Yeah.
I will try not to botch it. So your chop and swap option that you presented, buffer tank, glycol. You're changing the glycol, is that in there?
25, that was a separate number, yep.
Yeah, okay. And then ultimately DDC controls to bring them into, ultimately, all buildings can be seen from one site, from Lane, from whoever you have that's ultimately your facilities people to handle the operation and then communicate with control tech,
Yep.
mechanical contractors, whoever else.
What about the
oil
fuel tank?
I was just thinking the
Removing
oils,
oil.
yeah, the fuel tank has to. Tank.
I think the tank.
That was part of chop and swap.
Oh, that was part of chop and swap?
That was in.
No, it wasn't.
That was 37 grand, 37.
37 is the removal, and I haven't installed a 10,000 gallon underground fuel oil tank ever. I was told that they're around 70,000 installed once you get all the safety equipment. I did get a quote on a tank. They're about 35,000 for the actual unit. I just haven't done one before, but I'm more than happy to research it some more and add that to the proposal.
Okay, so the proposal would be chop and swap, your DDC controls.
Yep.
Your buffer tank, your glycol,
And the other tank and the fuel
and
tank.
the fuel tank change.
Do any of those knobby things?
And the knobby thing.
Are you? Thank you.
Does the fuel tank have to be underground?
It does, unless you want to put like some kind of heater. I mean, you don't have a whole lot of space. You could probably put like a 2,000 gallon above ground tank, but
Is the tank leaking now?
It's a double wall tank.
It's double walled, right? So
I have no idea.
And Harper Environmental, before, who was it? I'm trying to think of who was it that tested?
Yeah,
We had, we had no issues with.
Yeah.
What does our state say that we have to test every 2 to 5 or 5?
I don't know that one. Pressure test on the system.
know it's a double. It is a wall.
if the tank isn't broke,
I don't.
Well, why don't we get a price?
Let's get an estimate.
And then if it's good, then we can.
Sure,
swap it out.
appreciate that.
Is that
Very
right?
much.
Right, where we-
37 years old.
sure.
Do have concerns about the age of it.
It's well past its life.
I agree.
Well past.
Okay, that sounds
Those
like
are
we
the
have a
items.
plan. We good?
Yes.
Good.
About 500,000. I can update my proposal and I'll approve it and I'll send all of you guys the information.
425.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Sorry to take you so long.
No, this is good.
Yes.
Eric, if you need anything, give me a holler.
Hey, guys, yeah, and I'll get that email. Well,
All right, thank you.
I have more questions now about. the-
Okay. All right, let's keep going. We still have quite a bit to go through. All right, so our next item under old business is ratification of the speakers.
So there's in the packet, there's like a summary sheet that takes the contract language out of the language to make it a little easier to understand, agree to, but the contract language is also in there. The teams, did on both sides did a really good job. Those folks that aren't in education, sometimes I think it's hard to wrap their heads around what the process is like. But from my perspective, it's a pretty good contract. The overall cost, the 15.01% over 3 years is actually probably in the lower range of what's being agreed to in and around the state. And so I commend the staff as well for the work that they did to try to get this all worked out in a place that was agreeable to both sides.
I need a motion to ratify the contract.
I don't know if anyone has any, are people looked at it, good thoughts,
I
questions?
moved that. I second.
Okay, so the motion is to ratify the just contract, and that was made by Lois and seconded by Kate. Is there discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Take those signs.
Um,
the morning.
yeah, and I
Thank you.
definitely would like to thank Lois and Lisa
Yeah.
for a lot of work.
Thanks, guys.
I know that's probably one of the longest contract negotiations.
Yes.
And I think negotiations are like inherently set up to be adversarial. And it was, I think, at least from my perspective on the board, kind of hard not to be able to speak to that. It felt like this, like us against them. I know the initial proposal from the teachers was 34 pages or something, and very, very, very long. So I guess I want the public to know that this wasn't the board being an obstructionist. We want good teachers. We want to support the teachers we have, but we also we had to balance fiscal responsibility and all of the other things. So I just wanted, we couldn't really speak to it during the process because we're not allowed to. But this was not us trying to be obstinate. So, all right. So it has been ratified. I will sign that. Can you? And thank you again. Oh, what is today?
Thank you.
I'm making a date for you. All right, that's gonna bring us to our board education. We have Janine here. Mine.
I think you got your.
I am. Good evening. You guys have had a busy night. Very impressive. Lots of hard decisions to make, but important for your kids. I am excited to be back with you again. It's been a while. And I am impressed with the work that you have done to get to where you are with policy governance. My goal tonight is to do a super brief overview and then move you into the implementation of policy governance with a very simple first step that I'm going to teach you about tonight. So with tonight and with future trainings, you'll really move into bringing everything to life. It's not just policies on paper. It's how are we doing things differently so that we are effective and holding our superintendent accountable and connecting with our owners, which is what we talked about doing. So let me share a screen. I did forget to introduce myself. I know that most of you know me. I'm not sure if it's 100%. So I am Jean Collins DeWeese and National Policy Governance Consultant and Trainer, former Vermont Superintendent in 2 school districts, and I've been working with your board, year and a half, almost 2 years now. So, And I am not currently in Vermont tonight, so thank you for letting me join you virtually. I really appreciate that. Any questions before I begin? And I do have two screens up, one so that I can see the PowerPoint you're getting, and the other so that I can maybe see you. That's a maybe. So if you do have questions, you either need to speak up or let Adrian know to call on you. Some way of letting me know that that because I may not see you raise your hand. So no
Okay.
question. Thank you. All right. So you have your policies. Congratulations. This is what I said we were going to be. Oh, this is so now what? This is just I'm going to give you a quick review. This is what I just said. I'm not going to say it again. I wrote it differently, but that's okay. So you are governing. Governance is the process by which a small group of persons, which is you, acting on behalf of the organization owners, which in your case is your taxpayers, cause that organization to achieve what it should and avoid what is unacceptable. I do realize that several of you did not take the policy governance training, which is now a year and a half ago. And I do recommend that as your board turns over, that's one thing that we look at bringing back in for the full board to take. But just briefly, I want to remind you that it is a framework of 10 principles, starting with owner accountability, talking about where the board position is in accountability, and the fact that the board functions as a whole in policy governance. You discuss, you get all your viewpoints out, but you ultimately take motions, which is a single voice of a board. You have identified your ends policies. I know that Lane is bringing a report to you on that soon. You have also identified all of your executive limitations policies. I also understand that you had a second opportunity to look at executive limitations policies, and those were really interesting. And it might be something that as you monitor the policies you have passed, you might want to pull out and see, is there anything that we want to change based on these recommendations? You have policies on what the board is doing and clarifying how you delegate. And your policies are written in such a way that at the moment, at least until you live them, you believe they are written so that any reasonable interpretation would get you to where you want to be. As you monitor policies, you can change those if you don't feel the reasonable interpretation, even if it's reasonable, does not get you to where you intended to be. But we'll talk about that later at another time. So again, we have been together for a while, starting with a summer retreat in 2024, all the way through last winter and spring, writing the policies, and you took it from there, which brings us to where we are now. I do not know. Oh, I see. So just to pause for a second, these questions were supposed to slide in one at a time. So I didn't do that slide quite right, but it's okay. You can read them all. What does an effective board meeting look like? I want you to pause and think back to that. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but what does an effective, if you could just shout out an idea or two, what does an effective board meeting look like?
Collaborative, efficient.
Efficient.
Space for lots of different ideas.
Oh,
Sorry.
space for ideas. Okay. One more.
Yes.
Maybe we lead into the next one.
Clear communication of the public.
Clear communication to the public. Good. Okay. What does accountability to your communities look like for you?
Communication, yeah.
What was that one?
Presence.
Presence. Okay. How about identifying what you're going to do? Accountability that you actually did it, and back to that communication to the public that it was achieved or how far towards achievement you have come. Boards don't often think about accountability because you tend to live year by year. Um, and then boards turn over, so you don't often think about accountability that way. But that's really what it is. As you face new board turnover in the next few weeks with an election, not 100% of you will be here, and you'll have a member or two or three. What would you like your new board members to know about how your board functions?
Are you talking about within policy governance? Is that what you're?
Or at all? I mean, maybe that's one of the things you want your new members to know, that you are functioning within policy governance. That's your approach to governing.
You know, I think the thing that, and we've had, I think a lot of us have had these conversations independently. I think one of the things that is kind of shocking to new board members is it's, people come on, hoping to change like this one little thing, or they've got this like perception of what they're able to do. And it always seems like, I don't know, guys, like what, 3 to 6 months in, you realize that's not how the board functions, that it is this, collaborative approach, or, there are just things, it's not the board, and learning what that is, I think is probably one of the steepest things.
For sure.
I would agree.
That's well said. Yeah. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, and policy governance, letting the superintendent give him her the ability to do what they need to do, what they do best.
Right. That clarity of roles, that a new board member understand the role of the board and the role of the superintendent and how those two come together. Good.
And it is okay to disagree with each other.
Absolutely.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yep. And the board is the one, just as a reminder, the board's role is to set the vision. You have been talking to your taxpayers. You have been talking to your community. You know what the community wants the schools to achieve. And so the board sets that vision through the ends policy, tells the superintendent, this is what you need to be focusing on. And then the superintendent and his staff goes and achieves it and reports back to you. So helping a new board member understand that process might help that first issue of, but I have this one little thing that needs to be changed, and that's why I'm here. It's much bigger than that. Your role is much more important to that. Okay. So where I wanted to start tonight was to talk about your meeting agendas. And to work with you in developing your meeting agendas in a more policy governance culture, in a way that helps you stay focused on what your policies have said you're going to stay focused on. So you should each have your own, I hope, physical copy of an agenda tonight, because we're going to play with tonight's agenda. Later on in future trainings, I really want to talk about monitoring reports, because that's huge, and built-in professional development like you're doing now, etc. But tonight we're just going to focus on agendas. Policy governance is a new way of thinking. And when you look at an agenda and an agenda item, you want to be asking yourself, is this agenda item focused on operations, which is the superintendent's role? Or is it focusing on governance, which is the board's role? And I do understand that I look like I'm looking cockeyed at you because my camera is this way, but you're sitting over here. So I'm sorry about that. So asking yourself that question on each agenda item will help keep you focused on what the board's role is. And laying out your agenda using the 4 domains of policy governance will help you do that. Agenda development actually starts with annual planning. Annual planning is when you sit down once a year, usually in the summer. Usually it's your board chair and superintendent, and then the board has a chance to provide input. You look at what all of your board meeting dates are throughout the year. And under policy governance, you identify when are you doing activities that have to do with ownership linkage, with board education, with monitoring reports, with focuses on policies, etc. You have done that. Okay, if I can. There we go. Let's see if it switches. Stop share, start share. That's not it. I think this will come up correctly. Yes. So you have done that already. Um, and as you develop next year's, you'll do it even more. But you have it slightly ordered in reverse of mine. But you know when you're doing the budget process, you know when you're doing policy reviews, you know when you're doing board development. You've looked at your ends monitoring and plugged into your calendar when you're going to have different interim reports. You've looked at your executive limitations monitoring and plugged into your calendar. In your case, you were looking at rational interpretations as opposed to full monitoring reports this past year, but you've built it in. So good for you. You're already ahead of yourself. So what does the actual, okay. The actual agenda, what might it look like if you actually changed your agenda? Instead of showing you a couple of examples, well, yeah, I'm not going to show you the examples right now. I realize it's late and I want to get you to the meat of things. We can come back to that. So when you're looking at your actual agenda, you're looking at the domains of policy governance, ends, executive limitations, board management delegation, board governance. Those are the 4 categories of policies that you have developed. Most meetings start with a public comment section. Often, the agenda actually sets the parameters of public comment right on a written agenda. I'm going to come back to that. Again, these are the areas that your agenda wants to reflect, not necessarily in this order. The agenda can be reordered because you have guests coming in like you did tonight. You realize that you are up against a deadline for a vote, whatever it is. This doesn't have to be the order, so don't get stuck there. But all of these areas should be acknowledged, even if all of these areas don't have something on that particular meeting under it. So let's start with a consent agenda. Tonight, you approve minute meetings from January. That's a consent agenda item. It wouldn't make a whole lot of difference between the way you did it and just putting consent agenda on the item because you only had one thing. But if you were also approving bills, last month you had to approve your tuition because that was a state requirement. If you were, if you had, there are periodically things that come up that the state of Vermont says a board must do, which honestly are routine items, and your superintendent is actually the one who did them. Those are the types of things that go on consent agenda. Consent agenda, what it does is it kind of creates, instead of taking, let's say in this list, 4 votes on items, it's a 1 vote process. A consent agenda just lists all those routine items and somebody makes a motion to pass the consent agenda. If there's something on the consent agenda that a board member wants to ask questions about, then you would ask to pull an item from consent agenda, but you would pass the whole rest of the consent agenda and then come back to that item. So it's a definite time saver for those routine items that don't really generally need discussion. Quite often, the superintendent's report gives you background information on what's on the consent agenda, so you already have the information you need, but if not, again, you can ask to pull something from that. Does anyone have any questions about consent agenda?
I was just asking in regarding order, making sure that the superintendent's reports came before that. And then I guess also a plug for members to have read their materials prior to the meeting.
I'm
So
going to
that-
reinforce your plug to have read the materials prior to the meeting. There are many, many things that go into a superintendent's report. It really fulfills your policy 2.8 of incidental information, making sure the board has the communication and support it needs in order to everything you laid out in 2.8. So some boards actually don't put that till towards the end of the meetings. If you do put it towards the beginning, if you do want it before a consent agenda, that would be great, but ideally, what is on consent agenda, if there is anything unusual, for example, if there's something, the tuition payment, for example, that could be written into the superintendent's report, and you already have that information before the meeting. So I do encourage that to happen. All right. What I would like to do is look at tonight's agenda. And I have to go back and forth to share again. Um, oh, that's your policies. That's not what I intended to share. We have them if we need them. It is unwieldy. I apologize for going back and forth in order to share. Perhaps in the future, somebody will improve that. Went back to the same thing. What I'm trying to do is show you what a draft agenda could look like. And I'm not sure why it won't take me right to that one. So let's see again. So here is your regular meeting template, correct? And all of these things are on there. Now let's see if this will just let me go to that one without resharing. Yes. This is how it would look different if you put those pieces on a template that focuses on the 4 domains. So let's do that. So the first thing to ask is there anything in your regular agenda that you have in front of you that is directed towards ends, your ends policy, what it is you want students to achieve? Quite often it might be something like a curriculum update. So we could take the curriculum report and move it over here. Huh, I didn't put ends in there, so I'll do it now. The numbers after the words are the policy that it refers to help you know where to go, because ideally you'll each bring your policies with you to the board meeting. So a curriculum report, like it could be an interim ends policy report, what's happening with curriculum in your district. Also, looking at what else is on here, your principal reports could, and faculty, principal reports could also be an interim. Since I don't know the actual content, I'm just trying to give you some examples of how you can move some things around. These are the places where you would discuss these things. Next, going back to what what your agenda says. You have board education and your policy governance training for tonight. That could go exactly where, exactly as you have it now, your policy governance training. Some boards like to announce what the Vermont School Board Association training opportunities are. Maybe you want to, maybe you don't. This is just down there as an example of how it could be done. Executive limitations. These are the policies under 2.0 that tell your superintendent what they must live within in order to achieve your ends. Tonight, your agenda doesn't have a monitoring report on it, but that would be the primary thing that would go under executive limitations is the monitoring report. The monitoring report, which we're going to talk about another night, really is important to have of reading the report and being ready to answer the two questions. Is the interpretation reasonable with the rationale provided? And is the evidence adequate then to support the finding of compliance? Again, we're going to go over that in a future training, but I always recommend that these two questions are actually attached to the report or on the agenda to help you remember how do you read a monitoring report. The next section on this particular template is governance, process, and policy. You don't have it tonight, but if you had a policy that you needed to act on, it would go here. Whether it doesn't matter whether it's a policy governance policy or a mandated policy, policies would go under the governance process. Let's look again at what you have on your agenda tonight. What else might you see that goes under governance process? Action that you have to take would go under governance process. How instead of, there is no place for old business. Instead of old business, your work on the boiler, your work on PCB remediation, and your work on ratification of teachers' contracts, those are all board actions to take. They belong in the purview of the board. So they would be great to put under your governance process. Whoops. And what else? Oh, the boiler. Is that kind of making sense? See if there's anything else here. You've kind of already covered, I didn't talk a lot about public comment, but that is the same thing as ownership linkage, although it's only one direction. Hopefully there are other ways of doing ownership linkage where it's two-direction communication. You've already covered all of that. You've covered your old business. You've covered your board education, which leaves you with what might go under the communication and support to the board, which is incidental information. Your superintendent informational report could include an update. Actually, the district vision under Act 73 could potentially go under your ends. Your special education data, your cell phone. Okay, so your cell phone policy, if that's something that you planned on acting on tonight, that one should go under where your policies go. So for example, here, you could have turned that into, and then decide if it's a first reading, a second reading, or an adoption, or if you're simply having a discussion. Also under the superintendent's, yeah?
I don't mean to interrupt you, I'm sorry. Two things real quick. There's a second page to our agenda.
Okay.
But so there is other information that we would be covering tonight. But I'm just wondering if, because we unfortunately we're 5 minutes
Short on
toward
time.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
out of time. So
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know, we could maybe, especially
Okay.
since the members on the board next month. I don't
Yeah,
know.
well, yeah, what I'd really like to know is, yeah, we only have a couple things to do, but I'll stop for tonight. But I'd like you to think about this and consider doing it for next month. And we can discuss it further then or move into monitoring. I also know that next month is probably a new board member orientation meeting, so I'm not sure, we could talk later about where you want to go with that.
Yeah, we can touch base and then maybe, Lane and I in the interim could put together,
Yeah.
the agenda so that it's appropriate and then, moving forward with the new board members as well. If we won't be
Sounds
changing, two meetings into it.
Yep,
So
that sounds great.
I'm,
All right.
I'm so sorry.
No, I understand. You had a full agenda tonight. So thank you for letting me get this far. And I'll probably listen for a little bit longer, but I will turn this back to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, so that now is going to bring us into Lane's administrative reports minus the boiler update.
In this one, I'll spend just a little bit of time. I might suggest that the special education data, I mean, we tabled it once before, then we table it because that's a bit of a discussion. Let's see what's back here. When we hit that point, the ends policy, the first read of that section could be pretty quick, depends on the depth of the discussion. Mandated policy will be pretty quick. Flag policy depends on the discussion. I'd like to at least try to hit the superintendent's report because I think there's things that we should be kind of connecting on. Maybe just a second to pull this up. I don't know if you guys want to take a break for a minute while I pull this up.
I keep them out. I don't see how big stuff. That's hard.
Oh, it's the big map. Yeah, I'll show that to you when you get up.
Oh, this map?
Yeah, the 13 one. That was the one the secretary was.
Right. But the one that they're currently working with has us with Springfield.
Yeah.
So they take our,
So that's the Peter Conlon app. It's just the two of us.
so we all don't get to see them.
They put another new one out today.
Oh, they did?
Got probably 30 and 33 pictures.
Fewer.
But there's a problem.
My back doesn't.
I'm just trying to think, how many high schools are in the district people who are gonna be? That's good.
Well, it depends. If they want to do a regional,
Right.
some are regional, some are not.
Right.
They're super excited.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, guys. Come back.
And a lot of this has to do with, these folks are, I'm gonna stand up too, just because it's been a long evening, but there's a lot of good stuff in that folks got to. As we're heading into kind of budget season, and this is one of the things that hopefully, as folks are watching online or maybe looking at stuff in a little bit, that people are keeping in the back of their minds. You know, the tax rates are going up across the state regardless of what the districts are doing. That's just a function of how education funding in the state of Vermont works. But it's important to kind of remind the taxpayers, especially those whose household incomes are under that $115,000 threshold, that, you know, you do your homestead declaration when you do your taxes. If you do that, if your household income is under 115,000, that can reduce your school taxes by up to 5,600, and it can reduce your your town taxes by up to 2,400. It can make a huge difference in terms of what you're paying in taxes each year. And it's important for people to recognize that. Folks, if you're looking for this, it's Form HS 122. You can get it right off of tax.vermont.gov. It's one of the first things that'll come up there, and it'll kind of talk you through the process. So it's just important that people keep that in the back of their minds, that there are options that might lessen the tax burden. Annual meeting, just a reminder, this is something that, you know, we need to touch on. This is Thursday, February 26, 2026 at 6 p.m. right here at the high school. You do not have a moderator. The moderator that was elected at last year's meeting is unable to attend. We've reached out to multiple people. I even sent out a broadband, request, so we do not have a moderator. One of the things the board, may need to decide is you could try to vote in one now, or the other thing is we can wait until the meeting, and then the first act at the meeting would be the public that's there voting in who's going to moderate the meeting. Worst case scenario, I'll prep myself so that I have a basic understanding of how to do it and get us through just in case, but I don't know what the board's feeling is on that.
Would we have to vote you in to be the moderator if we did that?
Either, so the board could do it, or it could happen from the floor that night. If you do it from the floor that night, the benefit is maybe somebody responds to the request. So it sounds like the floor. Yeah. And we'll continue to work. We reached out to the town offices and whatnot too. But it was a little difficult. So legislative update. Did have some time to spend up on the Hill with the legislators. Actually testified on two of the topics on PCBs and on the 13 district map that the secretary had put out.
The first map, the very first.
Yeah. And the one thing that I walked away from that with at that point in time was they have momentum right now. They want to regain it. Change is going to happen. Whether or not they actually get a map, they're kind of slowing things down, but I have a feeling they will impose a map. They are going to strongly focus on school districts. The idea of having, a supervisory union is one of these large districts off the table. It's too hard for a single central office to manage anything that big with that many sub-districts within it. Foundation funding, we want to talk a little bit about this because this goes into the map discussions. When they started talking about a foundation formula, that means that the state is deciding how much money you're going to get per kid to be able to run education in your district. That number depends upon the economy of scale that you have, right? You got these giant districts with lots of kids, the economy of scale is bigger, so the amount that the state would allocate would be smaller to be able to get things done. The problem is with some of the newer maps that they're looking at, right? They're whittling down the larger districts into smaller ones. The economy of scale changes with the formula that they're using for that foundation formula is not. And I do not think that if they end up going with one of these maps that you're going to see a change in that foundation formula, because it literally says in there that that formula was set to force efficiency.
Right.
And so when we start looking at the smaller maps that they're talking about, I get a little concerned because if they stick with that same foundation formula, we're not going to have enough money to run our schools.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
When you said that the supervisory union concept is off the table, let's say they approved this map. Does that mean our gray is a district now with no supervisory union?
Yeah. So the original thought, and that was some of the discussions that we had here in the early communication we did, people were deathly afraid of losing local voice, right? So they said, if you got this big district and there's one board there, we're not going to be able to get our needs met for our local area. And so the pressure was on for these new districts to be supervisory unions. So all the little school districts within there would still be their little school districts with their own boards with basically a central office overseeing it. But the structural impossibility of, one superintendent, one business manager managing 14 different districts with different governance styles and budget, it's not
So it'd be
feasible.
one district, one board.
One
there would
district,
still be
one
a
board.
superintendent.
Yeah. And we're going to talk a little bit about one of the ways that it's possible to get some local voice into this system. And it has to do with some of the work that Ludlow Mount Holly is doing. So regardless of what they come up with in terms of a map, the thing that we have to remember is that the students in the buildings are still going to be here, even if we're not.
Right.
And so it's becoming real important to try to make sure that we're taking care of the kids through this transition, and we're taking care of the staff as best we can so that we're not just losing staff and hemorrhaging the best of the best left and right because of the upset the transition is going to cause. So what Ludlow Mount Holly is doing, and some of the discussion that was at the open forum that was at Cavendish a few weeks back, is they're putting together a restructuring committee, because this is board work. What is our vision for if and when this change happens? What do we want to preserve? What do we want to communicate to the people that are taking over? The other thing that they're interested in is starting to have some conversations with Green Mountain about the 3 small elementaries. And are there ways of, potentially exchanging students or whatnot to preserve those schools if possible? And so my recommendation to this board is to create a restructuring committee, to start having those conversations. The biggest things for me, if I think about it, if I were to provide some thoughts and some ideas about it, it's just that how can we work together within the district to overcome some of the obstacles that are coming our way, especially those enrollment minimums
You mean within the supervisory?
within our supervisory union. Yeah. Because that's going to happen regardless of the maps or not right now, unless there's some major change in the legislature.
Why would you limit it to just within the supervisory union? Why wouldn't we be having conversations with other neighboring
You should.
communities?
You should, and that
I
would
know
be,
we can do that without.
and that would be a piece that subcommittee should do. I know through hearsay, I know that, Woodstock
Right.
had talked and said, okay, let's talk with Cavendish.
Right.
Those conversations should be happening. They reached out to Ludlow Mount Holly, which is interesting just because of the physical location between the two. But those are things that could be happening now to kind of set you up for hopefully a better future with whatever changes happen.
If I can just say,
Yeah.
it's my last meeting, so I think that it will be really important for us to just all look at it as, if Cavendish goes to talk to Woodstock, or supporting each other to
Should be
do what's
happening.
best for our communities, and
Yeah.
not thinking about it from an adversarial, or we have to stay together, or this is some kind of contentiousness, that this is,
Yeah.
we all have to do what is right for the economic development of our
Yeah.
communities. And
Yeah, no, and it's perfectly appropriate. I think when I talk about this, and I think about it in my mind, and that doesn't mean this is what anybody has to do, but it's really just establishing this vision, this general idea of the direction that we want to go in, so that when those curveballs are thrown our way, or we're having to encounter what Act 73 is requiring of us, we have a general idea of what we want to do, right? Because this stuff has the potential, if they decide on that map, this is going to be like dominoes falling. All the requirements of Act 173 over the next couple of years. It's going to happen quick. A couple of the other things that I would suggest is, as part of that group, is getting a statement together about, this district and our communities, this is what we value. These are our traditions. These are things that new board, when you come in and you're starting to take over control, that you cannot get rid of. We're not going to stand for it. You also have an opportunity here of leveraging that new structure. If there truly is a better economy of scale, it means that we're going to have the opportunity to build programs that have never existed before. And it would be good to communicate to that new board when the time comes, what it is that we like or we need for our students and for our community. The other piece, and this goes back to the talk that we had on the supervisory unions about the loss of voice. Act 173 requires what's called a ward committee to form. And basically what they'll do is they'll look at the new districts and say, okay, based upon your district, this is how many people you should have on that district school board. And this is the towns that they'll come from. And I think that there should be a real clear statement from each of the towns, each of the current districts, about what they expect that ward to look like, that new school board, and give directions to that ward committee about, what we want. Yeah, if we're the largest district in this new restructured Vermont, which we are, if they go with that 13 district map, you got, it's scary the amount of voice you could lose if we're not really clear with that ward committee about what we expect.
The other one we just gained Springfield.
Wayne, didn't another new proposal just come out?
Yeah, it's even smaller than this one. That one I think was from the Senate committee, but again, the likelihood of those ones with the more districts, the smaller districts.
11, right?
No, that one was 33.
Oh, what's
It created even more districts. And so the problem with those is you get back to, okay, you've now defeated the purpose of their economy of scale idea. And so the odds of them going for something like that is minimal.
And that had the 2-year, with voluntary.
Yeah.
Merger.
Say that again?
Or consolidation. There was a thing about in there about adding a 2-year
So that's the gray right there. That's a
ramp up on voluntary consolidation.
They've talked about it, but it's not set in stone yet. My guess is they're going to say this is what you're going to do.
But this all leads back to they don't know what
Nice
they're
seeing you.
yeah.
So this would be our district here. I mean, it pretty much encompasses all the way up to where I currently live.
Right.
You know, down to our district here was Springfield. And, you know, if we were talking about where would the regional school most logically go, that's what I was saying about Woodstock, because it's kind of dead center. And they need to build a new building anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
But, and that, I mean, that's still pretty brutal. I mean,
It's
it's
a nice-
expensive
oh, yeah.
to go to Woodstock.
Yeah, that's a nice.
Oh, in the middle, in the dead of winter when it's dark and snowing out, yeah, it's not a pleasant place to live.
I know.
So,
Lane, can I ask a question?
yeah,
And you don't have to answer it, but do you know, like, that could be the district, but did they say that there can only be one regional school per district? Like, even right now, we have districts, we have multiple elementary schools within a district.
so regional high school. So they're looking at that 13 district model that I put up there.
Yeah.
So the only thing that would be regionalized would be the high schools.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was kind of an initial part of the law when they started thinking about it. I think politically they knew that if they tried to touch too many of the elementary schools up front, the backlash would be insurmountable.
Okay.
So they focused on regionalizing high schools. Doesn't mean that elementary schools are going to remain untouched. The decision after the fact, after the new boards are in place, will come after the new boards are in place. Because what's supposed to happen, the new boards are in place, the new structure's in place, the new map's in place, then the central office along with that new board is supposed to evaluate every one of the schools in the new district and decide if they
Still
should
gonna
stay.
attack the class size minimums, right? So
That's going to force us earlier.
that's gonna force.
And that's what I'm saying about this recommended committee
Right.
is you guys got to start talking.
Yep.
So, at the TRSU meeting, Kelly, we did actually start talking about, forming a kind of collaborative committee, with members from both districts. So it's not, you know, we would not, within our small group, be the committee, we need to include everybody. So, TBD.
One of the things that the AOE did follow through on to build onto a discussion we had earlier is, right, you know, we were talking about, okay, those minimum enrollments, are they absolutes, are they averages? And we said that these are things that they had to define. They did come out with the definition sheet a week or so ago. So enrollments are based on average class sizes, and here's the important part within a school. So that's really great if you got a large school, right, with multiple sections. But if it's a Cavendish or if it's a Ludlow or if it's a Mount Holly where you only have one class per grade, the average doesn't help in terms of the enrollment piece.
Explain that in multi-grade classes, the minimum is based on the lower
Yeah.
grade.
So remember, I may get the
Okay,
numbers wrong.
right.
So like fifth grade, you got to have 15. If you're sixth,
Right.
it's like 18.
You go by the
So
fifth
if you,
grade.
yeah, if you put the two together, then
Yeah.
the enrollment numbers will.
But multi-grade classes still count as a class.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, that's where the discussion comes in, because at least at Ludlow Mount Holly, when we stopped doing multi-grade classes, they had a surge in their scores.
Right.
Right. And so, you know, that's where that talk is about what's best for kids. Exempt from the minimum class sizes, right? Pre-K, kindergarten, any technical center courses, terminal courses. We'll talk a little bit about what that means. Driver's education and any course that requires specialized equipment. Probably because they figure if you spent a lot of money building like a big tech program or a STEM program in your school, they don't want that to go to waste. Terminal courses, so this applies mostly to the high school. It's the last class in a series that goes beyond the graduation requirement. So if we had a graduation requirement that said every student has to take at least Algebra 2 to graduate, and we offered pre-calculus would be considered a terminal course. Because it's beyond our graduation requirements, and it's still in that same math sequence. So those are the ones that they define to try to help people out, because folks are supposed to be getting things arranged in terms of the enrollment next school year. Right? That's when we're supposed to start getting those enrollment minimums requirements met.
So Lang, does that mean now that they've come up with it? I always question a lot of things about the state, but I always question, having been around for a while, I guess I know why. If the new graduation requirements are algebra and geometry, that means algebra 2 would fall into that pre-calculus category.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. And if they stop at algebra and geometry, they didn't do their job.
All right.
That's what they've done.
Yeah.
But the point I'm making is, and it's really just to help in understanding, well, when you focus on the semantics, so if we offer province stats, that could be a smaller class, so we can still give our kids good offerings.
Sure.
We don't, we're not going to get handcuffed by all of this stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Can I just ask one question about the average? Is it it's an annual average, but is it like a 3-year look back on the numbers, or is it like, because you might be compliant one year and not the next year because you lost the student?
That's the grace period, because they recognize in Vermont, especially in the smaller schools, that typically it's kind of funny. It's like every school, you'll have a small class here, a large one, small one as you go up through. So as long as the entire school is in compliance, and this is one of the things that we talked about, whether, what did they define? As long as they're in compliance for a year, you get a year or two of a waiver.
Okay.
If you fall out.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. The first annual data collection, they collect data from the districts at different times of the year. What they're planning on will be next spring. So not the spring that's coming, but the spring afterwards will be the first time they're going to check to see whether we're meeting our enrollment requirements. So that for next year. So they're starting pretty quick to start to collect that data.
And what is what is the risk or the punishment for not being compliant? Like, are
And
they
the
gonna
first year, nothing. So that if you're out of compliance for too long, they can do
they can
3
come in.
things. They can come in, they can take over your district, they can shut your school down without you voting about it, or they can provide technical assistance to help you get into place. They will shut your school down. Right. That's their goal.
Yeah, not
right. This is about building efficiencies. Couple other things really quick. Cell phone policy. There is a copy of the model policy from the state that is in your packet. That is the minimum requirement for a cell phone policy. Board, you set policy. So when we come back to the meeting in April, what I'm going to ask is there anything that you want to add to make it stronger? Then we'll do our second reading in May, and then that'll get us in a good position to get the protocols together and get it implemented by July 1st like we have to do.
I'd like to tag on to that. I would like the board, the incoming board, I think we should lead by example. So I think at our meetings, our phones they can be on. Some of us hire on call. They can be on so that you can hear it. But if you have to take a call, take your phone out, go outside. But I think we need to not be on our phones for any reason at the table while we're at the board.
Yeah, it's
exactly.
It's technically an open meeting violation. Because if a conversation has anything to do with a meeting, even if it's just not meaning to, it has to be open. People have to know.
Sure.
If you're gonna hold kids, right?
The board should be leading by example.
At work stuff, right?
Are we gonna have an opportunity to give feedback on that tonight?
You can if you want.
Well, I'm not gonna be here.
We're rushing just because of the time.
I would encourage us to not go full restriction, like no phones in the building. As a parent who has a teenager, like I totally agree with no phone use at school.
Okay.
Like I need him to have it after school.
Sure.
He watches his brother, he takes the bus and tells me where he's going. And it would be a real hardship for, I think, parents to lose that access to their kids if they're literally not allowed to bring it.
That's reasonable.
That's reasonable.
But I think, if the whole locking them up, the junior high's been doing it all year. It's been fine, I think.
Yeah, the minimum requirement, I haven't read it in about a week, but the minimum requirement is right there.
What I read is it's just put in.
from start of school to end, but you can bring them to school, but the school should have a system for, locking them up.
That seems
My only
perfectly.
question on it was that no use at all on a bus. I'm like, is that enforceable? What are they,
Right.
how's that going?
Who polices that?
Is that for field trips or,
Yeah.
I think you can use it
Policy.
before and after school on the bus.
If
From,
that's in the policy, that the state has put out as a model, that has to happen. That's the minimum requirement.
Got it.
Right,
So that's the idea. So if the state has put that in there, you don't have a choice on it. You can make it stronger. You
Right,
can't
right,
make it weaker.
got that. Yep.
Okay, all right, continuing on.
Just a quick heads up, we don't need to do an executive session because there's nothing that we talked about that would require to be in there. But just to know the dates, they're up and running. They did do the first exchange of proposals. And the process is moving along pretty well in terms of the Green Mountain support staff, and they've been fun to work with. Just a quick piece, and this is a part of the ends discussion a little bit. We're not going to get to the special education piece, but I will say a word or two about that. There is a study going on. I also have an expert who is going to be coming in and spending some time actually going through our programs and providing feedback with the goal of ensuring that we have a program in place that is developing the skills in the students so that they can become independent. Typically, what happens in special education is the special educators are awesome with the kids and they help them learn the curriculum, but it's a much different goal to actually, okay, I'm not just here to help you learn your math. I'm here so that you learn the skill that you need to learn and internalize so that you can do it for yourself. And so that work is ongoing. The current broad high school goals. One of the things that tends to happen in districts is that curriculum directors tend to come up through the elementary pathway. So the elementary schools get tons and tons of service, and the poor high schools kind of get left out in the cold. And that's a little bit of the case here. Luis is great. Luis has got high school experience. The elementaries still have some work to do, but the work that is left can be done by the principals with a little bit of push and guidance, and they're quite capable of doing it. So her focus is switching to the high school at this point in time. And some of the broad schools that we've talked about, with John and with Kate and Louisa is there to provide support on is the graduation requirements, is making sure they're aligned with what the state is requiring, but also making sure that we are preparing the students properly so that when they get out of school, they can choose any path they want, whether it's tech center, whether it's college, whether it's the workforce. And there is a very well-researched program of courses that students need to be able to do that. A master schedule that enhances student learning. They've got one that with probably a couple of little tweaks might be able to do a little bit better job. We've got the cell phone policy that we talked about. Strengthening the anti-bullying and harassment programs for students and staff, right? There should be a program in place at the middle school. There should be one in place at the high school that folks are talking about and working on. We've also talked about bringing in like facing history, facing ourselves into the social studies department, which is a world-renowned program that's on the level of AP courses for most kids. That helps with civic engagement and empathy and things along those lines. An anonymous reporting system so that students can kind of report harassment and bullying if and when it happens. Enhanced procedures for consequences and reinforcing expectations. In the state of Vermont, what's happened is they've relied on this restorative practice model where you sit down, you process with the kids and it's a good model. But what happened in a lot of places, consequences went away.
Yep.
You can have the conversation and get the kids to process, but without those consequences, you can actually further enable them, right? You do something really bad, you come in, we talk about it, you feel all warm and fuzzy after we talk about it, and you walk out and
Do it again.
because through the consequences, you get to go feel warm and fuzzy.
Yep.
Yeah. So things that we're talking about, and that'll be reflected in updates to the student handbooks. And the big thing that I already touched on is this redesign of the delivery of special education. The experts coming in to get that done.
That was awesome.
Yep, that one's great.
And these aren't quick fixes. They will help, but this is a 3 to 5 year process, just so folks are aware. Facilities director, I think as folks may know at this point in time, Julie, our tech director, they went down to Georgia, bought a house. So we've been wondering about Todd. He has put in his notification. He is done on June 30th of this year. I talked with him, confirmed with him that he's sure that that's what he wants to do. So we've got some possibilities. Some I've been investigating, but some I've been trying to seek feedback from the boards. One of the possibilities is we don't replace the facilities position and let it be managed at the school levels across the district. Ludlow Mount Holly is not in favor of that, especially given the fact that they've got some big construction things that they've got to have happen. The other thing that we've talked about here is this idea that we combine that facilities position with the transportation director position. That way, Sue does an awesome job, but she's part-time. This way, if we've got issues on buses after the school day is over, if they're also the facilities director, they're here. Right.
Didn't we do that in the beginning?
Yes. Yeah.
Was that a long
Yes.
time ago?
Oh, so it's a model you guys have had. Spent some time with Peter Burrows, the superintendent over at Springfield today, and we talked about some of these positions, the things that we can combine. Especially we talked about, because Todd's also the athletic director. Again, that one I don't think is too favorable, but we're going to have a bigger discussion about the facilities piece. I don't know what the board is thinking. I'm just gathering information at this point in time, so I don't know if there's feedback there. Our purpose that I can see for a position like Todd's isn't for the day-to-day management within the buildings. That can happen within the buildings. It's really for the bigger projects where you need somebody to have the oversight to work with the contractors, to get the bids out, to follow up and make sure that the work is being done the way that it should. So it's a higher level sort of thought, which probably might be able to be done by, a combined position.
I do not think we should stop hiring positions that are going to keep our schools running well. And I think that sends a bad message to other staff to vacate. They're already starting to not hire.
We also have a lot of big projects in the works. I mean, we've got boiler project, the PCB project, the addition at Chester Andover. I would like to see that position filled. So we have a dedicated person who's going to keep our physical plants running and managed.
Yeah. Okay.
Wasn't it that the TRSU, there was discussion that Todd actually had a recommendation, didn't he?
At least on the facility side, he felt that they could be done, at the
In-house level.
at the in-house level. But again, that means that the bigger picture of the facilities piece, that bigger view and the work with those contractors and things, that would be me and Cheryl at that point.
Right.
Could we do it? Yeah, but I can tell you right now, I'm also doing minutes now.
I feel like you have more important work to do.
Yeah, so we should have someone, if the merger of the transportation director and facilities director is feasible, I'd be totally open to exploring that option.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then the AD piece is separate from all this,
So
right?
the AD piece is going to be critical. John, talked about it a little earlier today. Todd talked about it as well. It would be nice if we identified a person sooner than later, so that they could come in with the new spring season starts and work alongside Todd to pick up.
Because I definitely don't want to share an AD or not have one for the kids. I think they really deserve that.
Is it public comment? Is there an issue?
I have a suggestion for an AD, but I can.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind just, during public comment.
And we can connect.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so again, just the thoughts that are out there. So again, the directions are appreciated as we kind of talk about this a little bit.
Sure.
And that's the big piece about the superintendent's report. We touched on curriculum, we touched on Fed facilities. You kind of already did. You had your boiler presentation that was here. The curriculum report that's written that Louisa has provided. We kind of talked about the change in direction. We're going to be still supporting the elementary schools, pulling back a little bit, but the primary focus for the next couple of years is going to be the high school.
Yep. Awesome. Great.
Financial report. Cheryl's not here, but you're where you should be for this time of the year. There will be some dramatic changes probably in the next report you get because the teachers with the new contract that you just ratified will be getting their retroactive pay. So you'll see some shifts in some of those lines, with that.
How far back retroactively? Far back?
To the beginning of this year. Yeah.
All right, so, oh, you're good?
I'm good.
Okay, so, and that's gonna bring us into our new business. Primarily, this is first reads of the preamble, and adaptability. That's the ends policy. Then you have two first reads, Series E, School and Community Relations, Series instructional operations. Those are all in your packet. I don't know if anyone's already perused them and has any thoughts. If not, they'll come back next month. Sorry.
I had nothing on it.
The ends policies, just as a quick, there, you basically have 7 areas, in terms of your ends policies that, we would be doing work under. What I'm going to try to do is bring in 2 of them with the interpretations and the data. That way it's not overwhelming. So we'll kind of do the same thing that we did with the other policy. We did skip over the rest of each of this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
My fault.
Was there, they're included though. Yes, they're the ones that are on. Okay, did anyone have any questions about the principal's reports? Yeah.
They're good.
And then there was about the student representatives.
Yeah, Lena talked about that today. When I came back, I did speak with our coordinator of our student government. What our plan is to have them discuss it and make recommendation and vote and put forward members, have the students vote on it, and hopefully by first meeting that will have.
Sorry, reorganization in March. They'll be okay. Okay, great.
And then the state is trying to pass a law to give a require a student member to give them actual voting rights.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Might be good, but it's fascinating. Nope, we don't have time, so.
Kids are capable. Kids are capable. We believe in them.
All right, so that brings us to flag policy discussion.
So in the packet is a model flag policy that has been vetted by legal counsel. This came up as a discussion item. The idea being, and having kind of gone through this in the previous district, is if other flags or banners go up on the flagpoles, you're establishing an open forum, which means that if it's not the state flag, if it's not the US flag, you put something else up, it's an open forum. Anybody can comment, just like think social media. So anybody else can put up whatever other flag they want and we can't say no. And so what a lot of districts have done in recent years is just said, okay, we're going to just set it in policy right now. And we're going to say that the only flags that you can fly on the flagpoles are the US and the state flags. The bit broader question was, what do we do about open spaces within the district? Right. Do we want, teachers to be able to put a Trump banner on the wall or put a Biden banner on the wall or things like that? Within a school, it does happen. The reading from legal is that, we asked, could you expand the flag policy to encompass those open spaces? And no, you can't. It really tramples on free speech rights. But what you can do is create a policy and or a protocol that says something along the lines that the only thing that will be put up in classrooms is things that are related to curriculum. And again, the idea isn't to restrict free speech, I think, but I know, and I'm not saying do it or don't do it. I'm just giving the information that I've been able to gather. It's the idea that, we're living in some pretty difficult times where groups clash a lot. Do we want to give a forum to potentially have those clashes unfold within the school system? I went through it in OSSD and I'll tell you, it's not fun.
And I'll just speak up. There are parents that have reached out to me on teachers here have flags up that do offend them and their children.
I've had a few reach out to me as well.
I think though, I I hate that we have politicized identities so much to the point that we now are comparing like an LGBT flag that helps our children be seen and not want to kill themselves with a Trump flag. Like those are very different things. I'm worried that what we're going to do is make marginalized children more invisible, and that bothers me. All because it has been politicized. Like we can say no political flags.
Yeah.
That can be our policy.
But
We
if,
say only we get to put up flags that represent our students. That can be our policy. And that doesn't mean we have to put up a Trump flag or a Biden flag.
if the LGBTQ flag goes up, that you've now created a space for an open forum.
What do you mean by an open forum? Like, what does that even mean?
So anybody can put up what they want.
Whole. So
No,
we have,
No, we're talking about in the classroom.
Yeah.
right, but if we say, if our policy says teachers can put up curriculum-based stuff and they can put up things that help support students' identities, help students be seen, then they can put up those flags. So be it. We can also say you're not allowed to put up hate posters.
But that's the piece, is that if they put up the other.
Comparing LGBTQ identity issues with hate and discrimination. We've decided that they're the same and they're not.
No, but the point is that under the law, in understanding, like I said, having gone through this, if one goes up, you cannot prevent somebody from putting up the other. That's the problem.
I think if you have a policy that restricts what goes up, you can. I don't understand. You have a policy that says it's all or nothing. And
You can't, the idea being is that with free speech, if you open it up to free speech by putting one up, at that point in time, you can't restrict anybody else because that's a violation
we
of
tell
their.
children, you can wear clothes, but you can't wear clothes that have beer on them. You can wear a shirt that has words, but you can't wear one that has swear words on it. Why can't we just have a policy that spells out what can and cannot go up?
You can, but the problem is it won't stand up in court.
So my kid can wear a beer shirt because you're telling me it won't stand up in court for you to tell him he has to take it off.
So
But it's
there are certain things within free speech that schools are allowed to restrict. But the Supreme Court actions that have happened in the last couple of years mean that when one goes up, especially in a public space, you've now created a public forum.
Well, then I encourage students and teachers to wear it on their person, then, not put it on their phone.
And that is a free speech right.
Agree.
Yes, and that's unless it's promoting violence, unless it's obscenities, or unless it's something that is disrupting the operation of the school, then that's perfectly their right.
I just think in a heteronormative, highly volatile system that we're living in right now, the last thing we want to do is further erase marginalized children, and that is what this does. Even if it is meant to like keep things neutral and keep us from going to court, it erases children, and they are so much more likely to die by suicide. And I have to say that because
I believe it's a valuable argument that you're making. I'm just saying.
I appreciate that, and I
There's
think
also
we all should consider.
I agree with that, but there's also the other side of the children and the families who don't agree with that. So
But
that's
they're
kind of
not
what
killing themselves because of
That's not true.
they're not killing themselves at the rate of
Focus on our issue.
I am focused on that issue.
But no, I don't want to start debating on who's killing you.
Well, I know that's hard to hear and speak about, but it's true. Marginalized kids, LGBTQ kids, trans kids kill themselves at higher rates. And when they are erased, they are more likely to kill
I
themselves.
don't think anyone's trying to erase them, though.
I disagree with you. I think that our society is trying to erase them.
So the issue in front of the board right now is about flags on the flagpole. We can talk about, and this is just discussion, there'll be no action tonight. And then further discussion about open spaces in the schools or it was a district. I
think the thought was the open spaces, if the board, if there was any the idea that, they might want to restrict things in open spaces, the only way you could do it was to make it protocol, it's like curriculum. And again, that's based on legal counsel. And so I'm not saying do any of it. I'm just providing the feedback based on the question that was there. Yeah.
All right, so be thoughtful. I understand, I understand this is going to be something that we're going to feel very strongly about. Just I encourage people to stay focused on what the board is supposed to do in this dynamic. Okay, all right. People feel like they've got enough information for that? Okay, so that brings us to public comment. You said you wanted to bring forth a name for these.
Oh, yes, sorry. Candace Groner is very heavily involved in the Sport Booster Club. She also has a sports admin degree already. And she has 2 students here in the school. Her son is in 7th grade. And her older son Max is sophomore. Freshman or sophomore, and she also has Abby in 1st grade, so she's going to be invested like in the district. She has students coming up through, which I think is important.
Well, if that is something that we do, encourage Mr. Brogan to apply.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. So and Wendy McNaught.
Sorry, trying to get myself unmuted. Just really quickly, just in the last conversation, just as a teacher, I wanted to recommend that we're really careful as you move forward about how you phrase what's allowed in classrooms or not, because like my growth mindset poster that says try your best is not curriculum related, and is my mat that says welcome curriculum related, and then do I get into a gray area when my mat says all are welcome here? Just would really advise you to be very careful about how you limit what's allowed to be up in classroom spaces or not.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
I'd like to share. I want to start by thanking you guys for ratifying the contract. That puts a 2-year process to bed, so thank you for that. Lane, you had shared a little infographic that had class size minimums that I just wasn't sure where the 25 came from up on the board. I don't know if it was just an infographic or whatever, but I never saw any classes of 25 from the state of Vermont. So I was just curious what that was in reference to.
No,
though, can you just follow up afterwards?
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I was curious. That's what I was curious about there. I looked up the phone thing. It's bell to bell. So buses would be like if you're doing a field trip during a school day, then they're not with you because it's bell to bell. And then some of the things with, if you look up where the state is going with the ICBE standards, it sounds like a lot of these things that are going on in our classroom is going to be related to social justice and stuff like that. So I am concerned about that. And I do feel like Kate's concerns of those that work with kids every day. So I just think we need to make sure that we differentiate like people being offended at inclusion and people being offended for different reasons, and what that looks like. I would also say that the American flag currently in my classroom is not related to my curriculum at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Randy?
Maybe Miles, Jessica. I had a lot more comments, but Lane took care of a lot of them with what he was presenting with policies, and some of the things I'm going to say has to do with policies as well. The cell phone issue is a little bit touchy. We had instances with things going on, and the students were able to call the parents and set them at ease and stop them from coming to a school that could have been in a very bad situation. The first thing I'm going to do if my kid is in school and I can't reach him is come here. Even if somebody tells me, don't come here, my kids are my number one priority. I think they are with all of them. So that's a critical thing. Kids should have access to their phones in school, not in the classroom and using them. I think the program we have now works really well. They check them in, they get them they need about. So there's some give and take with that. And I think it's very beneficial to have information from your kids if something goes on as a parent. The other thing I want to talk about is policies with flags. In my years of school, I had one teacher that basically lit the walls up with all kinds of banners and flags and stuff like that. And it was a bit overwhelming. It distracted people from learning. There was so much on the walls, you couldn't help but wander and look. I believe in my own opinion that the school should stay neutral. You know, if you allow one, you got to allow them all, and those walls are going to be filled up. We're here to learn, and that's what we should be focusing on. You can have your own identity, you can celebrate that way, you can be respectful. But I don't know if the flags and all the school and stuff like that pertaining to one group or another group. Good idea. So, and the last thing I've had, as I come to these meetings, I've had a few people come up to me as well inquiring, and I don't know if anybody can say anything or even a thing or not, but it may squish what their concerns were, is that we have a conversation about eighth grade or a math teacher that was let go, and they don't know if that's true, false, or whatever, and I don't know if the board say anything to either the community or whatever to let them know that that's something that doesn't exist, or it's an ongoing thing you can't talk about it. And that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Sorry. Before you speak, what was your name?
Samantha Thomas.
Samantha Thomas, thank you.
My name's Jessica. I just wanted to start off by agreeing with Randy as far as the cell phone policy goes. I think kids having their phones, especially in case of some violent incident, is incredibly important these days. I know there's a lot of school shootings you see. That's how they're contacting their parents to let them know if they're okay or not. Especially in the aftermath. I mean, there are a lot, kids' phones are taken away from them. In the aftermath, what you're gonna have someone who's standing there handing out the phones back to kids so that they can get in touch with their parents during that whole mess. As far as the flags go, I think that I find it difficult to believe that there's not some way you can thread the needle on political banner side of it to allow flags that or to create a welcome environment or signs that say this or that that's not directly tied to the curriculum without being an endorsement of one political party or another. I find that difficult to believe. So, and I think it's also unreasonable because then, as I don't know what her name was, but as the member of the public just mentioned, at what point do you draw the line with, well, this doesn't apply to my curriculum, but it's something that I have in my classroom. Is it just going to be all bare walls with there's an outline of the Industrial Revolution day by day? It seems a little ridiculous to imagine that that's the environment that they're going to go. That's my 2 cents.
That brings us to future meetings and agendas. So we actually, this just has the March meeting, but we have the February 26th meeting, the informational one. And that is for those who've not attended them before, very quick. It's like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. We come in, we go through the warning, vote, and move on. And then our next regular meeting is March 19th. And with that, some of the issues, just to remind people, we're going to be discussing and likely voting on the boiler. We're going to discuss the cell phone policy. The other thing, and it'll be good because it'll be the new seated board. We're going to start talking about the vision. So again, if you kind of remember what Janine was talking about, the board is not operational. We're the bigger picture, we're the vision. So we need to kind of start thinking about what that means. So if you could, if you guys could start thinking about what you would like our vision for our district to be. Then is it?
Motion adjourned.
Your last one.
Hold on.
Oh yeah, it should be you two.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Okay, all right, there's your 850.
Everybody. Okay, so